Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of The Fan Show, where we'll be talking to Spurs fans from all around the world, talking about that performance, that absolutely brilliant performance at the Etihad on Saturday, beating Manchester City 2-0. Thomas Frank has got off to a flying start as Tottenham Hotspur boss in the Premier League. 2 games, 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, 5 goals scored, 6 points. Spurs are sitting second in the Premier League. We're not getting carried away, though, but we are in a good mood. Every Spurs fan is in a good mood right now. There are 8 days left of the transfer window. Will Daniel Levy get any more business done for Thomas Frank? We desperately need that squad depth. Now, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X and Facebook, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Let us know what is exciting you right now, and let us know what Tottenham need to do in this transfer window in the next 8 days to really back our new boss, Thomas Frank. Now, joining me this evening, co-hosting with me this evening, is Si Foxhall, should I say. Si, how are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. All in a good mood. The sun's been shining. Spurs are winning. What's there not to love in the world? Looking forward to chatting through Spurs stuff as ever with the Spurs family. Hopefully, respectfully, even though we can have different opinions. It is allowed.
Absolutely. Well, Si, what I love about these fan shows is, of course, we'll be asking some of the guest questions, but some of the guests will come on and they will ask us questions, or they will just talk about what they want to talk about. So we never know what's coming, no script. So we will cover a range of subjects, to do with Spurs, which is always great. Now, if you would like to appear on one of these fan shows in the future, please do send me an email. It is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. Now, Si, how are you feeling right now after that performance on Saturday? Great result, but the performance, every single player gave their absolute all.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I owe Thomas Frank an apology because I was a bit sceptical when he was appointed about what he could do, and that off the back of, the resources he had at Brentford. So I owe him an apology. But what the team did yesterday, they just personified him. Calmness, sensible, structured, everything that represents the man himself. So for me, it was a fantastic performance, and it was very mature, very calm. That's not one thing that we've associated with Spurs for quite a while now. So yeah, I was really impressed, and Mr. Frank, I owe you the biggest apology.
And Si, 8 days left of the transfer window. What do I know we'll talk about this a lot during this fan show, I've no doubt of that at all, but in your opinion, what do we need to do in the next 8 days? Because I think it's pretty obvious that we can see that Thomas Frank does get the best out of players. We'll probably talk a lot about Richarlison tonight. Richarlison, it's like having a brand new signing. Pape Matar Sarr, what a performance from him yet again. He's been excellent during pre-season as well. But what do you expect and hope for in the next 8 days?
What I expect is probably 2 players. What I hope for is 4, because I think there's some areas of the squad that we still need to put right. And the 4 areas for me are a number 10, a left winger, a left centre back, and a left back. And then there's one other thing that we really need to address, which is the fact that we only have 7 homegrown players in our squad, which, unless we take it to the 8 we're allowed, will mean that we lose registering one of the overseas players. So I think that's something that needs to be borne in mind. And bearing in mind the pool for homegrown players is shrinking by the day, the hour, the minute for the quality you might want, we need to address it. But like I said, for me, 4 positions need covering, but I probably think we'll get 2.
Right, so let's go to our first guest, and we're going to go to Josh Hughes. Josh, how are you? How are you feeling after that great win on Saturday?
I'm over the moon, guys. Firstly, evening to everyone listening in, and evening to both of you. It's hard to think, just a few days before with the Eberechi to Arsenal news and the whole mood with the fan base, it's like we're all a bit bipolar. We were all, on top of the world after the Burnley game, and then everything was a disaster, and everyone fuming with Daniel Levy, rightly so. And then Thomas Frank, Chris, I was watching the channel as I always do when Thomas Frank does his press conferences, and I stayed up to watch the embargo section, and I think it was in that section he was talking kind of a lot about, you know, players, but his mindset was really, really impressive, which was kind of the key thing is it's about the football. At the end of the day, the way to change the mood of the fan base is by winning football matches. And we beat City quite a lot. It's like City away for us is a bit like when we play Wolverhampton Wanderers at home. But that being said, you know, we went there last year, won 4-0. I thought the performance on Saturday was double or triple that of the 4-0.
Yep.
Because it wasn't just a good performance, it was everyone to a man. And I thought, you know, first half, 3 players I thought that struggled were Bentancur, Spence and Porro. Second half, absolutely outstanding. And little tweaks, little changes, you can see how involved Thomas Frank is, you know, constantly monitoring and changing things up. Even the decision to bring Kevin Danso on to go 5 back just to see the clean sheet out.
Yeah,
we played like we had a force field in the second half. It was like an impenetrable wall. We weren't going to concede. And Sarr, phenomenal. Richie, phenomenal again. Kudus, a handful. You know, I want to give massive props to Romero, who I thought was, he really led by example. I think that was proof in the pudding as to why he is the captain, especially that incident when there was the corner and Richie had a bit of handbags with Nico Gonzalez, and then Romero was the peacemaker.
Yeah, love it.
And the other player I want to talk a little bit about is João Palhinha. We saw João Palhinha, the player that was so good for Fulham yesterday. Of course, gets his first goal. He led by example. He went to ground so many times. He was winning tackles. He was, you know, everything we needed. We've been talking, you know, Chris, how many times have we been on talking about how we need a midfield enforcer?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
Palhinha comes in, and it was always going to take a bit of time because Palhinha played very little football for Bayern Munich last season. And to come in the midway through pre-season, you know, without that fitness there, without that game state as well, because having not played a lot for Bayern last season, you know, it's going to take a bit of time. And for him to step up in a stadium like that against a team like City, you know, as much as, you know, I love to criticize Daniel Levy. I do it every time I'm on the podcast. I don't know how involved he was in this deal, but for it to be a loan deal with 21.7 million buyout for a player of that quality, we were saying we need to stop signing kids. We need to sign some players with some experience. And he just looks to be the perfect fit. Let's hope he stays fit. Let's hope all of the players stay fit. But yeah, I think with the City game, look, we are clearly a team that is going to prove a lot of people wrong. I mean, I laugh when I watch all these predictions and people are saying Spurs 8th, 9th, 10th. And I just thought, what a load of bollocks. I said to my flatmates, I said, I think we'll finish.
It sounds like you're getting carried away.
Yeah.
No, because I don't think we're in a title race or anything like that. But I said to my flatmates, I said, I think we'll finish 5th. And I think we'll prove a lot of people wrong. But, you know, Si made a really good point before, which is that, of course, we need to sign players. It's all well and good being 2 games in, having not played a minute of Champions League football, Carabao Cup football, FA Cup, you know. It's all well and good early in the season, but we know what happens. We like to start well, and then comes November, December, the colder months, the games come every few days, and the injuries set in. And I'll be honest, you know, while I think Palhinha and Kudus are excellent signings, you know, players that come straight into the starting lineup, which is brilliant, which is what we've been crying out for, the squad itself is on par with what it was last season. You could argue maybe slightly better with the fact that I think Kudus is already showing that he's going to give us a lot more than Son did last season. And Palhinha is a different profile that we haven't had. But we still are so light. Again, I completely agree with Si. We need 4. We need a left back. We need a left centre back. We need a left winger. And we need a 10. So let's wait and see what happens when we get those games thick and fast. Because right now, I think, if we weren't playing in Europe this year, I think this squad's going to do very, very well. With Europe, that's a whole nother level. But one thing that I do take from, well, there's two things I take from the early games with Thomas Frank. I'll include the PSG game as well, which is point number one being that Thomas Frank has always got that extra 10% out of players. And it's clear that he's doing that with these Spurs players. I think Richarlison's a great example. For me, quality has never been the issue with Richie. It's always been keeping him fit and giving him a clear run of games. But he's a player that needs coaching, because I know he does a pigeon celebration, but he's been, he runs around like a headless chicken when he's not properly coached. And I think that was clear to see under Ange. But the second thing, and this is the most important thing, which is the ability for us to win the ball back so quickly after losing it, the high press, and the fact that we completely stopped the transitions yesterday. And we completely stopped Burnley's transitions as well. And we stopped the vast majority of PSG's transitions too. It was only when PSG brought on 2 or 3 world-class players, when Spurs didn't have that luxury, that the game changed. So, and to think that how many times were we caught last season in the transition on the break? And under Frank, everyone seems to have a role. And you only have to listen to what Brennan Johnson said, João Palhinha said after the game, to show that these players are clearly loving life under Thomas Frank. And also, it's not just Frank, it's the whole coaching staff. Everyone else is involved as well. It's not just Frank that's embracing the players and getting stuck in. It's is it Cochrane? Is that his name?
Jason Cochrane. Yeah.
He's constantly up there talking to Frank. He's constantly getting stuck in with the players. Yeah, the vibe is good. I think we could not ask for a better start. We've got Bournemouth and West Ham coming up. I think great time to be playing West Ham, because they are shocking. Bournemouth, who knows? I think Bournemouth are a good side, and that will be another test. If we can go in first 4 or 5 games and win them all, then I think that sets a real marker for what this team's going to be about.
Josh, can I ask you a question about, you mentioned, the transition against Burnley when we played with a different midfield to the one yesterday. What changes did you see from the players that made up the midfield against Burnley that made them so as effective as the guys against Man City yesterday? Because we would expect it from Bentancur and Palhinha, but the guys last week, it was a different setup. So how did you see that?
Yeah, so I think that's the most notable thing, right? And it's interesting, because in Ange's first 10 games, it was the most notable thing, which is that we absolutely bossed the midfield in those first 10 games under Ange. And in the first 3 games so far under Thomas Frank, we've done the same thing, absolutely dominated the midfield. I think this is one of the things that's really positive to see is a couple of things. One is Pape Sarr. He's like Kipchoge, the marathon runner. This guy is Duracell Bunny on steroids. This guy's engine is out.
He's been unreal. Yeah.
Outrageous. But also how he's taking up a more advanced role as well, which is really good to see, because we're seeing, a lot more of that box to box type. I got very carried away when I first saw him play for Spurs. I said to my dad that he's built a bit like Patrick Vieira was, with that sort of really long, gangly frame, but really physical. He's since got a lot more physical, and his decision making has got better. But the difference is, of course, we can play with that kind of more rigid, that sort of enforcer-based midfield 3. But then we've got a player like Lucas Bergwall, who, again, to give him a high praise in comparison, reminds me a lot of what Luka Modric was like when he first joined the club. Some of the passes, some of the things he sees, again, the work rate. The most notable thing, the difference, I think, was, it was the role that Sarr played that I think Bergwall played last week, which is that player that just ran into the hole every single time. Every time we had the ball, he was available. Bergwall did it against Burnley. Sarr did it yesterday. Every time we had the ball, there was a passing option. And how often under Ange Postecoglou, we sit there and groan because it looked like the players weren't moving at all. And even yesterday, there were times where I thought the team weren't quite moving first half as much, but it was that balance between being sort of defensive and rigid, but also when you have the ball, expressing yourself and keeping the ball. And Frank again said this in his in the pre-match press conference, which was about the importance of keeping the ball and having good moments in possession. And when you've got players like that that are constantly moving, constantly keeping things ticking and making stuff happen, but also not just that, but being the first line of that physicality. I mean, Sarr set the tone yesterday for the press. He was absolutely magnificent with the press. Bergvall did the same against Burnley. That kind of, it does make you wonder, actually, because we're talking about, needing a 10. And we've played these few games without one. But actually, we found ourselves with a slightly different profile of attacking midfielder in the last couple of games, because it's actually been about constantly making yourself available and leading the press. And so this leads me to kind of, because I'm sure this will probably come, is players that we're being linked with. Nico Paz, who was phenomenal for Como. He got a goal and an assist, a really good assist. Watching some of his stuff and the physicality that he uses, I think that might be the ideal profile that we go for in that 10 position. I know there's been some links with Lucas Paquetá. I doubt we'll sign him on top of Kudus. But I think that kind of physical profile. And then aside from that, we've got Dejan Kulusevski to come back. How good is Kulusevski going to be in that system, playing that role in the 10? Because I can't see him playing on the wing in this system. I think we need a lot more pace. You've got that, as Frank says, deep runner, which is Brennan Johnson. He can play, he can have a generational stinker of a performance, but still get, 2 goals or a goal or an assist or whatnot. Then you've got Kudus, who is our magic man. He's just takes everyone on. I mean, it's been so long since we've had a player like that really takes on players for fun. So yeah, I think the balance is there. We just now need to supplement what we've got with real quality and depth, so that when we get those injuries, we're still flying.
Josh, last question very quickly for you. What do you expect in the next 8 days? What's going to make you happy, really happy, and what will put us in a position to be fighting on all fronts? Because, like I've said many times, and by the way, I haven't taken it as a negative, and I know some people will take it as a negative, what you said earlier about, with the squad depth, because it is about realism. Because the last couple of seasons, when we've had those injuries, we know that it's not sustainable to be playing a lot of these players game in, game out, week in, week out, particularly with Champions League. The Champions League draw is on Thursday, by the way. And it's interesting. When I looked earlier, we're going to play 2 teams from pot 1, and they're PSG, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Inter, Borussia Dortmund, and Barcelona. They're going to be very tough games. But Josh, very quickly, what's going to make you happy on the 1st of September? What do we need to do?
Let's bring in Nico Paz in 10. I've seen enough from him. His physicality, his skill reminds me a little bit Dele Alli. I want Savinho done. Again, clearly Thomas Frank loves him and really wants him. I'd like to see a couple of outgoings as well. I think Spurs probably need to get rid of some of the dead wood. We still have Brian Hill. Obviously, it looks like Vuskovic has going to Hamburg on loan, which is a little bit surprising for me. But then it'd be interesting to see what happens with Takai when he gets up to sort of fitness. If he's going to come straight into the first team squad or not, because I thought he'd probably be the more likely to get loaned out, because when Vuskovic has played, he's looked impressive. And on top of those 2, I'd love to see us sign, I accept we're not going to get 4 players in, but maybe a defensive player, someone that's homegrown. I really like Anthony Robinson. I thought he was crap today, but
he's the one for me.
Generally speaking, I think he's superb. And look, Jed Spence has been magnificent at left back, but I would much rather have the luxury of Jed Spence going toe to toe with Pedro Porro at right back, Doggy going toe to toe with someone like Robinson. That's 2 top players in each position for Champions League, Premier League. Fits that bill. Maybe a surprise bid for Mark Gay. I don't think it's going to happen. But at the price that we're looking at, some of the links with a discounted price with him in his final year, I think if a good bid comes in, I think Palace will probably let him go. Yeah, let's see. We'll have to see how it goes. I do expect us to sign at least 2 players. But yeah, that homegrown thing does worry me. So yeah, I think that's why Anthony Robinson for me would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Josh, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you very soon. Cheers.
Okay, guys.
Cheers, Josh.
Right, we're now going to go to Ireland to talk to Noel. Noel, how are you?
Hello, Noel.
Hiya, Si. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. It's glad to see you up and about because I understood you were unwell.
Well, I had a bit of a back problem, Si, but you can't keep a good man down, as Chris knows.
And can I just give you another bit of praise, Noel, as well? You're in landscape.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even attempt it, Si, because I got such a slagging from Chris. I figured it out eventually,
Good lad.
Chris,
No,
what a result yesterday, my God.
Fabulous.
What a result indeed. What a performance. I'll tell you what, it was one of the best performances I've seen in a very, very long time from a Tottenham Hotspur team. How impressed, Noel, have you been with Thomas Frank? And has it raised your expectation for this season now?
Chris, I think he's a very impressive guy. He looks well. He's got a good demeanour. I liked Ange. I really liked Ange. But one thing I didn't like about him is eye contact was very poor. He sat there, at his press conferences and he looked at the ground and then he would come back up again. And anybody in business, of any type of business, eye contact is very, very important. So that was one thing I actually didn't like about him. Thomas Frank is an impressive guy. He looks the part, he talks sense. And, when he looks at you and you believe him because you can see his eyes. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sure I think that really is the first thing that impresses me about him. But Chris, I was really impressed when he said, we don't want to talk about these players. They're not here.
Now, would you take Thomas Frank not looking at you in the eye if he delivered us a trophy?
Of course. Yes, but Chris, I think I always thought he was the real deal. I think he's a very imposing presence and a very convincing man. And I can think, the players are really playing for him. You can see the commitment that was there yesterday. Everybody. I was watching. Chris, you had some day yesterday. I don't know how you stuck it. You were there. You were walking back from the stadium. You were on the show for 2.5 hours. I don't know how you do it, but anyway, I was watching it all, and you had a great guest yesterday. Ricky was buzzing as usual, so fantastic. But the point I was making is the players are really playing for him, and you can see the togetherness in the squad. And I like the fact that he said, that the first day he was there, that Richarlison knocked on his door, and there's a player, that we were all doubtful about. And he's like, everybody has said it, he's like a new signing. You've got two centre forwards now. Last year you would have been looking for another striker. You've got 2 strikers now. Keep him fit. But there's always still that little doubt about him. He was getting into trouble yesterday, and I was screaming at the TV, get him off. I could see Solanke warming up on the sideline, but they took an age to do it. There's always that little bit about his temperament, that he's easy wound up. But by God, I tell you what, he really took his 2 goals well against Burnley, and his assist yesterday was amazing.
Can I just say so? With Richarlison and Romero, for me, I think they need that little bit of edge in their game to get the best out of them.
Absolutely.
I think if there's no antagonism, it makes them kind of lesser players. But that that's just their character. And my question for you really would be, what do you think Thomas Frank said to Christian Romero as part of the process of getting him to, re-sign with the club, extend his contract, etc.? How do you think that kind of played out?
Well, I think actually that, you'd pull him aside and remind him of what a world-class player that he is. He's a World Cup winner, and he's won trophies, for Argentina. He's won a trophy for Spurs. He was promising them the captaincy. I would have said that he would have said to him, calm down, become a leader. And and that's exactly what Chris was actually saying about it yesterday. He was a common influences there when there was a few handbags. Romero was the first one in, and he was yellow carded yesterday purely on his reputation. The referee, to me, looked at it, thought it was a foul, and because it was Romero, yellow carded him. I mean, and that was never a yellow card. It wasn't even a foul. So I think the responsibility, and I'm sure a hefty pay rise was a big factor in it as well. So you're the man with the money. You know the crack anyway. But I think actually that Romero believes in the project because I'm sure he has spoken to everybody individually and tell them exactly what they wanted to do. And the way they played yesterday, and everybody's been talking about Polino, but Polina, I thought he was fantastic, but
Yeah.
he's allowing Pop Sar to move forward, and with an engine like that, and like Bentancur has come back a completely different person. I thought he was harshly treated last year over that Sun incident, which I thought was ridiculous, and then he got injured, and the disruption to him. But he's a good player, a very, very good player. And if we just had that wee bit more creativity in the final third, which everybody is crying out for, I think I'm always a glass half full person anyway. But I said it to Chris many times that everything is there. The stadium is there. The training facilities. It's just going to the next level. And I think Daniel Levy has been badly maligned in the last couple of weeks. And I was watching Chris on Wednesday night, and I was absolutely fuming about the Eze situation. But I think if you read deeper into it, I think I read somewhere, I don't know if this is true or not, that Eze put the phone call into Arteta.
That's right.
If that was the case, there was absolutely, once they got the opportunity, there was no way we were going to get him. So I think, we should give Levy more credit that he was actually going for the likes of Morgan Gibbs White, who I think that move was completely. I have my own theory about the chairman there, but
Well, no, the Athletic did actually put a report out stating that Eze was about to sign for Spurs, and then before he signed the contract, he actually phoned Arteta and said, "Look, I don't actually want to really join Spurs. I want to join you. So, will you sign me?" And Arteta said yes, and the rest is history. And if you see the interviews that he's done, it puts an even bitter taste in the mouth about him and the way that was dealt with. But what I wanted to ask about, we've been saying for a long time about us signing experienced players. Ange Postecoglou himself said this, touched on the subject a couple of times in the last couple of press conferences that he held as Spurs boss about signing experienced players in this window. Mohamed Kudus has come in. João Palhinha has come in.
Yeah.
They're going to be two regular starters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, they have hit the ground running, which is absolutely great to see. João Palhinha, that block in the second half at the Etihad on Saturday, incredible. This is a player, a number 6 that we have been crying out for in the last couple of years. And what a player to bring in with Premier League experience. Mohamed Kudus, I tell you what, Noel, I believe that this guy is going to get everyone off the edge of their seat at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and in these away games. He is superb. He is going to be an absolute star at Spurs. How important is it for you? Because when you consider and when you see what an impact that two players can make, if only we could get a couple more like this, then Thomas Frank would have a real opportunity of Spurs climbing up that Premier League table. Because it's so funny, isn't it, that a couple of games in, we're all excited because we can see what the manager's doing. We can see instant changes. We can see progression, and we can see things being done very differently. Josh mentioned earlier about the coaches. You've got Justin Cochran in the technical area all the time. You've got Andreas Georgeson, the set piece coach. The coaches are so on it. Matt Wells is constantly next to Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank is so animated in that technical area. And I know I'm talking like I'm very excited because I am. But there is a big but here. We know that, you cannot keep playing the same 11, and we do need that depth. So how important is it now, and how confident are you that we're going to get a couple more?
I think what Sai was talking about looking for 4, and Joyce was saying maybe 3. I think realistically we get 2. And I think that's more realistic. And I think exactly what you said. I think you need a left back, and Robinson would be a great signing. And maybe somebody to cover for Mickey van der Ven. I know Ben Davis is there, but Ben's been a great servant. But I'd like to see somebody with a bit more experience. But of course, we need the number 10, and we also need the left winger. Do you think that they will get the Savino one over the line, Chris?
Manchester City seems to want a lot more money. So it depends
Right.
whether Spurs are going to go all out. It's going to be a record signing for the club if they go and get him.
Right,
but
okay.
you need someone on that left-hand side. And I have said this many times. I think if you have Savinho on one side and you've got Mohamed Kudus on the other, whipping balls in, and crosses are very important to Thomas Frank. You've got the likes of Richarlison and Dominic Solanke in the middle, finishing them off. We're going to create a lot of chances, and it could be very, very exciting. It's just whether Spurs do want to break the bank and what other plans we have. I know Thomas Frank in his press conference the other day said that he's confident that one will come in. I think a lot of people will be extremely disappointed if it is only one player to come in. I know that Thomas Frank gets the best out of players, but I, as a Spurs fan, just don't want him to have all of that pressure to constantly get the best out of players. It needs to be mixed. Of course, he's going to get the best out of players. That's why we brought him in as manager. But there needs to be that mix of, giving him the tools and giving him a bit of help as well.
For me, if it isn't Savino, I go off and look at things like FB Ref and stuff like that. But the players that come up that are of equal kind of standard as him and do the same things as him, you're then going off to look at people like Garnacho, Malik Fofana at Lyon, and Ademola Lookman. Now, whether Spurs fans would be happy with them or not,
not for me. Not for me.
No, it is another thing. But one thing with Garnacho, whether you like him or not, just to consider. First of all, he'd be playing under his country. He's the captain of his country. Would that have a benefit to him? Don't know.
Great point.
Also, he would tick the homegrown box as well to get us up to the 8. Now, I'm not saying I like him or don't like him, and Thomas Frank's got his no dickhead policy, so that's one thing for the club to work out. And the other thing for me, Noel, something that you said with Levy, the problem I had with Levy and Eze is if you really wanted him, you could have gone and done the buyout clause in his contract. If you really wanted him, you could have gone and got him and not faffed around and wasted a load of time on a player that you ultimately weren't going to get. And also that comes back to your scouting and your background checks on somebody. We do it in business with background checks and everything else. But you would have known that Eze really wanted Arsenal, wouldn't you? And you would have made yourself and the fan base look a bunch of clowns by delaying it. And like I said, you could have gone and done the release clause if you'd wanted in that early. So I don't know.
I actually think, and this is very important. It's 14 weeks on Wednesday since the Europa Cup match. And the transfer window, we're still looking for 2 players, and we have 8 days to do it. That's my criticism of Levy. That's exactly my criticism of Levy. I don't think, but I think he was badly maligned over the Eze situation. Yeah. But Chris, you were talking about Kudus there. Kudus was actually making tackles at the edge of his own box and setting up attacks. I mean, my God, what a player!
His defensive work is as good as his attacking play. He's incredible.
I thought as well.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with the partnership between Van der Ven and Romero and the back four and Jed Spence out of position. But by God, is he playing well? Very, very well.
But nobody gave Johnson credit yesterday because if you look as well, their right back likes to get forward as well. Is it Rico Lewis?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't. And I think between Jed Spence and the much maligned Brennan Johnson, they did a good job in suppressing Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis. So, I think everywhere you look around the team yesterday, people were doing what they had to do, well, to be fair.
I got a text, Chris. I got a text this morning from a Manchester City fan, and he said, "You've gone very quiet. I was expecting you to be on berating me after the shambles." And I said, just another routine win at the Etihad, you know.
Another day at the office. Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know,
Yeah.
and then after the text, he rang me, and this guy wants Guardiola out. You know, I mean, he thinks it's gone. You know, it's just a step too far. You know,
Yeah.
being beaten all the time by Tottenham, but it's exciting times, Chris. It really is. I mean,
it's good.
and you know,
No.
yeah.
Last question. What's your
Yes.
score prediction for Bournemouth game on Saturday? Can we go into the international break 3 wins out of 3?
Absolutely. Yes. 3-0. 3-0.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know, if we have any ambition, Chris, we have to. I mean, I remember last year, you know, Bournemouth absolutely played us off the pitch, and how we got a 2-all draw is beyond me. But this time, if we have any ambition, you have to be beating teams. Somebody mentioned, you know, we were playing West Ham there. Is it the next one after that?
Yeah.
Is it? I mean,
West Ham away.
I only saw
their cup final.
I saw their goals. I saw the goals on Match of the Day. Well, what a shambles! They are in real disarray. The goalkeeper was flapping at everything, you know. So, 12 points, Chris.
I can see Mohamed Kudus getting the winning goal and doing a knee slide right in front of their fans, and it will really kick off. It'll be great. It'll be absolute scenes. Yeah. Noel, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Nice to see you, Si.
Cheers,
Noel. Cheers. Cheers.
Thank you.
Right, we're now going to go all the way to New York and speak to Terry. Terry, hello.
How are you guys doing? Si, how are you? Good to see you, mate.
Everyone's good.
Terry, of course, you've started a new series on the channel with Player of the Week, and you gave Player of the Week to João Palhinha. He's been very impressive, and like I said earlier, he is the number 6 that we have been missing for these last couple of years. But how impressed were you by that performance on Saturday against City? Oh, we've lost him.
Is he still there? Has he gone?
We've lost him. We'll get him back. We will go to Steve in Czech Republic. Steve, how are you?
I'm fine.
Hello, mate.
You there, guys. How you doing? That's Si and everyone who's watching.
All good.
Steve, how are you feeling after that win on Saturday?
Yeah, my prediction went out the window, didn't it? I was not hoping. I thought the most we could get was a draw, 2-2. But there you go, a fantastic performance. It was a real team performance. You've been saying that everyone knew their job. You couldn't say, oh, so and so played badly, or the defence were a bit rusty or whatever. From the whole, I mean, Vicario made a couple of blinding saves. The one where the ball was played through to him, and he saved it with his legs. He came rushing out. That was a good save. Everyone was playing really well. I thought in the first half whoever had the ball wasn't really looking up. A couple of times Sarr made some brilliant runs into the box, and it happened 2 or 3 times. I was a little bit disappointed with that, but overall we totally contained them. We played them off the park. As people have intimated, Bentancur, I've always liked Bentancur, and he's come back now. He's playing like he used to before the injury and before you say that thing with Son. He's found his feet. He was doing circles in the middle of the park and spraying the ball around, and virtually like a double pivot with João Palhinha. Fantastic. It was so nice to watch. And then who didn't have a good game? Everyone played extremely well. So the tactics, like you say, Frank is so animated on the touchline. It's sort of think, he's getting involved. After Ange, who I loved to bits and got us the cup and everything, it was still nice to see. We've got a coach who's really getting involved. Like you said, the whole coaching staff, not just him. It's a whole team effort on and off the park, and it's all coming together. But we've got to be careful, to keep our feet on the ground. But absolutely enjoying the weekend. And I won't want to be saying, start talking about, where we're going to finish in the league at the moment. It's just far too early. So
Steve,
with your questions.
Yeah, were you surprised about the formation yesterday? Because, in my head, I could have seen him play in the same formation as we did against PSG. Or was you kind of convinced that he would stay with the 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, as they call it, whichever?
I thought he would keep the same formation as he did against PSG, to be honest. He seems to be able to, well, not seems, he can change it up at will. He's just.
It's good though, Steve, isn't it? For him to be unpredictable to, not only us fans, but the opposition. It's good to be unpredictable.
That's right. Yeah. It's a key to any kind of, winning any kind of sports game or, competition of any kind. You need to be, not to be readable, not to be knowing what's going on. That's the big difference, obviously, between him and Ange. He was a bit too predictable. I won't mention Ange again, I promise.
That's all right.
Just a comparison to last
I've got some friends who are Brentford season ticket holders, and they said they could never take it for granted as what formation he played because he tailored it against the teams he was up against.
Which you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just footballing IQ, footballing intelligence, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I think, other teams are going to sit up and sort of listen and take a good look at us before they play us now. And the sort of, especially the top, not the top, your Chelseas and your Liverpools, then down the road, and a couple of other teams, they're going to think, oh, they've just done City at home again. They might just think, oh, it's their bogey team, but it's a completely different team, different tactics. And we totally dominated them in the midfield, and the goals were nice. I mean, we could have had 3 or 4. I mean, I don't want to pour cold water on it at all, but because we can all, pour accolades on it and everything. I was a little bit disappointed with the finish at the end of, I think, what was his name? We came on, what was his name? I know what his name was. Yeah, Odebear, that finish from the rebound from Solanke's shot. I don't think he realised he had so much time and space, and he did the diving header. But I know he's only young, a more experienced player. It's at the Etihad. Could have just taken it down on his chest and put it away. That would have been nice. But to be in that position was quite amazing. That they were ripped apart at the back. If you look at that, that last chance that Solanke had, it was basically 2 against 1 almost. As I say, when the ball fell to him. So, yeah.
Steve, how impressed have you been with Richarlison? Because honestly, it's like having a new signing. Two great finishes last week, and yesterday against City. A great cross for Brendan Johnson, and the closing down, the pressing for the second goal, and he made it really, really difficult. He had a number of tussles with Diaz in the centre back position for Man City, and he just made it really difficult. And I thought that was great.
It was great. I must admit, I was in the camp with a lot of fans over the last couple of seasons, even, thinking it's time for it, move him on. I know he's had some injuries, but he wasn't quite delivering. He was missing chances, but now he seems to be getting in the right positions, and he's assisting. That assist was pinpoint. It was really, really good. He was, as you say, he was making himself, he was putting himself about in the box. He had a couple of headers. Very unlucky with the one where he got the header, I think, and it cannoned off the defender's back and went over the bar. It could have gone in the net. Another one he headed just wide, and he was upset with himself. I was watching him in training, him and Van der Ven putting some nice headers away, and I thought Van der Ven might get on the end of one of the crosses, one of the free kicks that we had. But very impressed with Richarlison. Just hope he can keep it up and hope he stays injury free. Yeah.
Was you impressed with Brennan Johnson yesterday and what he did, or is he still going to be Marmite for everybody?
Listen, do you want me to be really honest?
Of course.
I know he's.
Of course.
I'll tell you, I do like him. He actually plays the position I used to play, so I got a lot of criticism when I was left wing. But
did people criticise you, Steve?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. Being one-footed.
Did you score as many goals as he did?
Got as many times. No. Okay, yeah, I was impressed. He's got to be in the right place at the right time, and he was there. That was a very nice goal he got. I mean, the defender was sliding in. It was difficult. He hit it quite close to the keeper, but it was a goal. It was a nice goal. I do think towards the end, though, in the second half, there was 3 times the ball was played out to him. I don't know if you remember. He was away, but it came off his leg, and it rolled right away from him, and the attack ended. And there was another ball he got, and it ended. And shortly after that, I'm not saying it because of that, it was a couple of times or 3 times that happened. The attack broke down with him for one reason or another, and he was substituted. But I think he was going to be substituted anyway by Odeberg, sorry. But he's growing on me. Let's say that. I'm getting a bit more affection for him. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think we'll see better performances and sharper performances by a lot of players, including Brennan Johnson this season under Thomas Frank. But no one can argue. Two great finishes. One last week, one yesterday. It's been a good start.
It was a good finish. It was a great finish. It was he took it really well.
Yeah,
he did a little bit of tackling back as well. I remember he was
he did well.
And I went, oh, he's putting a challenge back.
And I love that phrase when people say all he does is score goals. Well, weren't that terrible?
I think a lot of teams would like that problem. Yeah, having players that score goals. Yeah,
I mean, because the chances are few and far between, as we know, at that level most of the time in most games, and he's tucked it away. I think that's the only chance he had in the whole game. One of the few chances Spurs had per se, and he took it. So you can't complain with that. No, he's not. What do you say, Marmite?
Marmite, yeah.
No, I never heard that expression. That must be.
Yeah. No, he's as long as he keeps scoring, we'll keep smiling. Yeah. Steve, nice to see you smiling. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Hope to see you at the stadium soon.
Yeah.
Cheers, Steve. Right, we're now going to go back to New York and see if we've got Terry back with us. Terry, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks, guys. On a different, my laptop never works for some reason, so I'm back on my phone here.
So something you said.
Si, good Terry, to see you. How you been?
All good. Everything.
Terry,
good.
Everyone is smiling at the moment. Everyone's in a good mood. Of course, will it be like this in 8 days' time when the transfer window closes? How confident are you that Thomas Frank can get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 new additions in?
Oh, that's the question you're going to lead with? Oh, no. Because
you can come on and talk about whatever you want. You don't need the questions from me. You tell me what you want to talk about.
After having been burned this much this past transfer window, I am very reticent to say that we're going to be happy at the end of the 8 days. Maybe 1. I mean, I think more so than the numbers is the quality of the player that comes in. It's in terms of number 10s. I don't know who's out there that's really realistic. Like we're hearing about El Khanous, Agliouche, and just like every other fan, you go and look at their highlight reels and you kind of wonder, like, could this person, like, whoever comes in is going to be a downgrade from Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze, right? And it's I don't even want to say those names anymore. It's just the thought of going through those weeks of here he goes and here we go soon and 85% and 86% and 80. It's just is there another fan base that's as tortured as us? There's no way, right?
All these different terms. When I saw that one, 85%, I thought, wow, that is a new one. Yeah.
And then here we go soon. And then here we go, like I've got to tell you another thing, kind of from our side of from the Spurs side, fan side as well. The phrase that frustrates me, and I think it's a very common term, is hearing this act like a big club. I think we have to be honest with ourselves as a fan base, in that we have a big fan base. We have a great stadium. We have a great training ground. In that aspect, we are big. But compared to Arsenal, compared to Liverpool, our management we aren't a big club. The way that Arsenal acted on that Eze deal and just swooped in and stole him, that's a big club right there, right? It's the way that Liverpool stole Luis Diaz from us a couple years ago, when it looked like when we were about to sign him. That's what big clubs act like. We steal Danso from Wolves, and we steal Archie Gray from Brighton or from Brentford. So compared to those clubs, we're big, and we act like a big club in those instances. But sadly, in cases like this, when it's a really big name player like this, we aren't big. So I don't know if we're ever going to act like a big club under Levy. I've been very supportive of him. I think much more so, and I think because fans like me aren't there in England, I think we're a bit more understanding. We kind of see where Tottenham's come from and kind of what he's building up to be and how big of a club it is. So I think, especially from a business point of view, to be the 9th biggest club, I think we in general will probably give him a little bit more leeway. But after this debacle over these last 2 months here, yeah, I'm I'm with you guys now. I just don't see a future with us just truly competing at the tier A with Levy at the helm.
But do you think, Terry, for us, when we are, if we want to call it tier B, we're operating at tier B, do you feel happy that we've now got a manager that can turn tier B players into tier A players or near tier A players? How are you feeling about that?
That's what I wanted to talk about is Thomas Frank. Oh my goodness. My gosh, this guy, what I've learned over this past 2-3 weeks is that I don't know as much. Chris, you don't know as much. Si, you don't know as much. None of us know as much as Thomas Frank knows. We all wrote off Richarlison. We all said, he could. We just don't see a future for him with Spurs. He backed him this entire summer. Look what he's doing for us. We all thought he should go back to a 3-5-2 yesterday. And he surprised us with his formation yet once again.
Well, Terry, let's not get carried away. Let's have this conversation in a couple of months' time, and then hopefully we'll still be in this mood about Richarlison.
That is true. That is true. It's but you have to admit, I know, Chris, the last time I was on was after that Newcastle game, and we had a conversation about Richarlison. Then you asked me about him, and you said surely we have to move on from him here. So I'm curious to hear kind of what you think about him, but you have to admit that he seems rejuvenated in terms of
absolutely.
He's always put in that work ethic.
Yeah,
but he just seems so much more comfortable out there. He seems like he's really embraced this new role, like holding everything up there. It's just he seems really happy. He seems really comfortable. Those around him seem comfortable, and that's probably comes back to Thomas Frank and Cochrane and the coaching staff. It's just the entire structure and the organization of the team is absolutely incredible right now. It's hard not to get a little carried away, and I don't want to, because I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, because it's Tottenham. It's like I'm waiting for some injury news to come out, because last year we beat them 4-0. Then we found out that Vicario's foot was broken. Madison has a great game and scores against Bodo Glimt, and then he's out. We win the Europa League. We fire Ange. There's always some kind of downer to come with our highs here. So.
The one thing, Terry, though, I would say about Richarlison is I've never ever criticised his work rate. Never.
Yeah.
What I have criticised him about is missing golden opportunities when he's had them, because when you're a professional footballer, you know what it's like. You've got to grab your opportunity when you've got it, and there was that one spell last season where he went through a really good goal scoring spell, and then he's had so many injuries at the football club. And I hate to criticise a player when they have injuries, because of course that is unlucky. No player wants to be injured. No player ever wants to be sitting out for months on end and be having injuries or have any other problems that of course had mental health problems as well. So you can't be critical about that. But what I can see about Richarlison now, he's working a lot harder. He's really knuckling down. I believe that Thomas Frank will get the best out of him. But the one thing I would say about him, he's got to remain fit. That is the biggest problem with Richarlison. He has to remain fit. And I think if he does remain fit, then he will always be in that position. Because I tell you what, those finishes last week against Burnley were unbelievable. And when I go to any game, whether it's home, away, wherever it is, any player that wears that shirt, I get behind. I'm not there to be slagging players off, and fair enough, people do it, up to them. I would never be standing there or sitting there slagging off my own players. I want them to do well in a Spurs shirt. So I was absolutely delighted for Richie last week, and that game yesterday against City, although he didn't score, he had a part in both goals, and he harassed that defence. He was absolutely brilliant. His pressing was absolutely sensational, and that's what I want to see. I'd love to see him be like this week in, week out. But I do believe that the injury record may play a part, in the future. That's why Thomas Frank has already come out and said that we need to look after him. And I feel like Thomas Frank is the right person to manage Richarlison, because he really does get that. He really does understand it.
Yeah, but there's two other things on that, Chris, as well, if I can just jump in. First of all, when Thomas Frank got there, they've changed his diet, they changed the rehab, and they changed the way that they got him fit. And if you remember, he wasn't starting in pre-season, was he? Because they were waiting for the effects of the changes that they've made to his rehab and his diet, etc., to effectively take effect with him. So I think that we have had a problem. We do know there's a problem, but I think we've got an all-round proactive team that are going to make the rehabs and the use of the player. And if we back Thomas Frank with the right players and quality to get the squad size up, then you could do the one thing that we couldn't do last year: rotate.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Right.
For me.
I'm glad you mentioned the changes to his diet and his regimes, Si, because he seems to be really, really conscientious in a lot of his interviews, he being Thomas Frank. And he's been saying that, we're going to build him up slowly. We're going to add layers here. We're going to add layers. And it's not just with him. I mean, you see how slowly he's bringing back Udogie as well as Solanke. We need both Richarlison and Solanke healthy to rotate back and forth. And we need them both to have high confidence. I think Richarlison especially is a confidence player. You could see that. You could see that last week. You could see that this week as well. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember that there was one cross from Porro where Rico Lewis just made a really good play to get in the way, but Richarlison almost scored on a header, and his confidence would have been sky high. So I think keeping that confidence up, and then you're right, Chris and inside, just keeping that health up, and we could see something special from him this year. Absolutely.
Yeah, and remember that we've had to replace a number of the medical staff in the last couple of years as well, and they were still putting adverts out recently. So that does take its toll. And of course, there was the mole that Ange Postecoglou spoke out as well. Right. So there have been a lot of problems off the pitch. So I've no doubt when someone like Thomas Frank or a new manager comes in at Spurs, there is a lot to sort out. It's not just on the pitch. There's a lot of stuff off the pitch as well. Terry, how confident are you about this season? Has it given you a little bit more confidence, having beaten City the way that we did? And like Si spoke about earlier about the number of formations. I think Thomas Frank played 9, if I remember rightly, 9 different formations last season at Brentford. That's incredible. And I feel like that is going to be a real plus for us in terms of the opposition. But how confident are you now that we can, do well in league competition?
So before the season started, I'm big on the supercomputer predictions, and one said we'd finish 7th, and one said we'd finish 14th. So based off of that, hold
on, yeah. Terry. Can I just say to everyone, Terry works in AI. So how realistic is this prediction, Terry?
Yep. Can I say something, Chris? How do we even know that Terry's real and not AI?
I can't answer that one.
Opta was the one who favored us to win the Europa League last year, so so I do trust them. And they're the ones that predicted us 14th. So just based off of that 7th and 14th, before the season started, I thought I was going to say 10th. Yeah, it's just somewhere between the two. It's hard not to have a knee-jerk reaction after these first 2 weeks. Right? Like you see the teams that you thought would be absolutely amazing. Liverpool weren't as amazing as we thought they were going to be. Chelsea's looked a little bit on and off. It's Man U isn't as good as I thought they would be. It's hard not to have just a knee-jerk reaction and be excited, but it is just 2 weeks, and we are still just at one game a week. Once those Champions League games starts, and once those cup games start, we're gonna have to have backup here, right? I mean, it's all good and dandy now, but this does remind you of the first 10 games under Ange, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that was just it was positively giddy. I mean, he was talking about the stadium being like a nightclub atmosphere. It feels like that again. I just more than anything, you just want these good times to keep rolling, right? Like you really, really, really do. I know I'm kind of wavering a bit. It's without reinforcements, without, again, not just the numbers, but true starters. The impact that Kudus and Polina have made. I mean, two like no-brainer starters who have absolutely increased the levels both at right wing and at the 6. Two more impact players like that anywhere on the field, whether that's at left wing, whether that's at 10, whether it's at left back, at striker, wherever that is, like two people who can increase our levels the way that those two have, then we would have reason to be excited. I mean, I've heard some pundits now say like we have an outside chance for the top 4, and that's exciting. That's exciting to hear. But again, it's a lot of people were saying Man City were going to be champions after last week's Wolves game, right? So it's I think we have to be cognizant that it is just 2 weeks, but it is exciting. These next 8 days, going back to your first question, I'm not very hopeful. I would be shocked if the Savinho thing came through, just because it's so much money. It would be our biggest signing for Savinho, who's shown flashes, and it's but I don't know. That seems like a bit of a stretch. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
Terry, for me, I've got this thing that it doesn't matter whether it's Polina, Kudus, whoever you want. They're not going to play 50 games a season and survive it. Pedro Porro is the freak, and probably Pat Matasar will be a freak. So for me, we've got to get, and it's all about balance. I think we need another left-footed centre-back, someone like Enquiries or Schlotterbeck, somebody like that who's going to come in and be reasonably a like for like. How do you feel about the balance of, taking on players like that yourself? Do you think that's where we need to be? Or do you just think we need another centre-back per se, no matter what side he's, which his preference is for his favoured foot?
Yeah, I've gone to the point, I've fully bought into Thomas Frank here. So whatever he seems to want, I'm going to agree with him now. We've all said that we think we need another left back, right? And Thomas Frank seems to think, we're fine. We're fine with Spence. We're fine with Ben Davis being there, and Dobie's going to be back. Now I'm at the point where if he says it's fine, I'm fine. I know that he does want a left-footed center back, like the Hincapié. I don't know how real those links were, but it seems to have died down a bit. But it does seem like that is something that Frank wants. So again, if Frank wants a left-sided center back, then let's go for one as well. Mm-hmm. The left wing, it seems like he's pretty happy with the striker. Don't you think? I feel like he's comfortable with Richarlison and Solanke up right now. I don't know, like that whole mess with offering up Richarlison and then wanting Wissa. I don't know how much truth there was to that. I hope there wasn't a lot of truth to that. I would have wondered where Wissa would have fit in, because at Brentford I've seen him both in the center and on the left. So I was wondering, would he have kind of played both positions, or if that was real or not? But I mean, Thomas Frank is saying that he's falling in love with the club. I mean, I'd say I'm head over heels in love with this guy, as much as one guy can love another guy that he's never met before. So it's
Terry, last question. So whilst we're winning games like this and we are playing like we are, I know we're only 2 games in and we're not going to get carried away at this point, but the transfer window does close in 8 days' time, and we have the Bournemouth game on Saturday. Of course, that is within the transfer window as well. Now, if we get a positive result on Saturday, and there's a couple of days left of the transfer window, after Saturday, do the board then say, we don't need to sign any more players. Thomas Frank has everything he needs. Is this a problem? And I've asked this question to a number of people on the podcast in the last couple of years, because we've been in similar positions when we've started the season well. Some people would say, well, we don't actually need anything. But I know a few people, I think, would take it as a negative by us saying we haven't got enough. And I know some people said that I was being negative last summer by me saying we haven't got enough depth. It's realism. You have to be realistic about how many games we're playing. You want to be fighting on all fronts. You want to be going far in the cup competitions. We do need players in. Everyone must see this, that we need more players in. But do you think that there is any part of the board saying, no, he's got enough? Because Thomas Frank, I asked this question because Thomas Frank said a number of times, including in the post-match press conference after the City game on Saturday evening, and said, look, if we can't get better than what we've got, then we'll just use a squad because we've got a very good squad already.
Yeah, I do think that. And we have to be, again, one of the few fan bases where when we do really well, but somewhere in the back of our minds, we're worried about doing too well for the board, because but I think it feels like they're putting a lot of stock in Thomas Frank's ability to improve players.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of the reason why he got the job as well, because not only has he proven that, I'm sure he mentioned that in his interviews as well. But even in that Man City game, as it was going on, and as we were nearing the 80, 85, I'm like, this was just an incredible performance. That thought crept into my head. Like the board has to be seeing this and thinking, maybe we don't need a 10. Maybe we don't need it. Like Brendan Johnson just scored again. We can't even enjoy games like that because of our board, right? Because we know how we know they just won't be supportive. It's just that's such a frustrating thing about this club. Like the players are so aligned right now. The coaching staff, they've absolutely gotten it right. The fan base is behind them, and it's the board. It's the board that's just kind of that always that odd man out. Just can't be in step with the rest of the club, and it's just unbelievably frustrating. So these next 8 days, I'm gonna try as much as possible to avoid social media. My God, I don't know how many times I clicked. It must have been every 5 minutes, and I'm usually not on social media, but when it was getting close with Eze or the 85%, and I was like an addict, just like, oh my gosh, just hoping for the here we go, and of course we got the here we go with Arsenal. So it's do you guys feel like we're going to get a bona fide star or a bona fide starter, at least one in the next 8 days? It's like someone who's going to slot right into our starting 11.
I do. I think we'll get two players that are, starting quality, if you like. I think we'll get two. As I say, I'm of the opinion we need four, but I think we'll get two, if I'm honest.
Who do you think those two will be? Those, because I'm assuming you're saying Savinho is going to be one. Then who's?
No, I'm not. I'm not sure about Savinho. I think we will get someone that can play number 10. I think they will address that situation because, just for me, they need someone that's going to be able to, be the lock picker against certain teams. And I do think he'll get another defender. I'm not sure about the Savinho one myself, but I think it will be someone that can play in the 10 and somebody that can play at the back. That's where I think the two additions will be.
Right, but I think when I think of a number 10, so let's say if it's someone like El Khanous, I don't think in big games like the one that we had yesterday, I don't think he would start over Sarr, Bentancur, and Pellegrini.
I agree.
At this point, those three are that's our starting three, right? Yeah. So I'm talking. You talked about the defender. I mean, I think Danto's fantastic as well, and it's like they wouldn't come in over Van de Ven or Romero if I'm talking about a Kudus Palhinha type of level where it's in our biggest game. Are they going to make the starting 11? I don't see us signing someone like that.
I agree, Terry, sadly. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we don't sign another player for the rest of the window. I know Thomas Frank has said that he's confident that we're going to bring one more in. But if he's talking about coming in, we need a couple more, in my opinion, to go straight into the starting 11. Yeah. With 8 days left of the window, with the players available, like you said at the very start when you came on, a lot of people would probably consider some of the names as a downgrade when we've been talking about Morgan Gibbs-White and Eze, and that's no disrespect to players, but that's the way it is. When you've got 8 days left of the transfer window, a lot of people are talking about Paz. He scored for Como today, superb goal. 50% of the sell-on clause goes to Real Madrid, so they're going to want a lot of money. Can I see that one happening? Probably not. Savinho, this has been going on for a while. Manchester City dealing with Spurs. It's not what really they want to do. They're asking a lot of money. It's going to be a record signing if that happened. It's a case now of them finding, and I know a lot of Spurs fans hate this word, but it's a case now of them finding an opportunity of a player coming in either on a loan deal or just an opportunity of having something up their sleeve and finding a last minute opportunity. And I know a lot of people won't like that term, but it's the way it is when there's 8 days left of the window.
Yes, but Chris, can I ask you something? For you, if you could only have 2 positions that are covered, what positions do you want covered if we can have 2 players in? Where would you like them to come in?
Number 10 and at left wing. And I would bring in, I'd actually go and spend the money on Savinho. I really like him. And I think that he's going to be a really, really top talent. And I can see, Fabrizio Romano said it as well, that I can see why Man City don't want to sell him because they believe he's going to be a next Premier League star, exactly same as Cole Palmer who went to Chelsea. I can see that. He's an absolute star. And to have him on one side, Kudus on the other side, and like, I can't remember who said it about James Maddison and when Kulusevski come back. A number of players can play in that number 10. We know that. You wouldn't want to have Kudus as a number 10 because you wouldn't want to take him away from the right-hand side, in my opinion. But there's different options. And Thomas Frank is so flexible. He can put people in different positions and he will make sure that they do a job there. So I do feel confident in that way. But the only thing that I do really, really worry about, particularly after the last couple of seasons we've had, is injuries. And we've had a lot of long-term injuries, which has been a shame.
But who's the 10 for you then, Chris, out of what's available in the market? Yeah,
I don't know.
The thing, isn't it? No, I agree.
We Craig and I did a 3-hour fan show the other night when the Eze deal, the Eze news broke, and we asked everyone on that 3-hour fan show, and nobody,
I didn't know.
Nobody could come up with a name.
No.
I think the only one who would have a chance of breaking into that that starting 11 would be Paquetá in certain games. Because I do think he has some creativity. That whole dickhead factor, I don't know if he passes that test. But he'd be one that I would be mildly excited about coming in. Like Nico Paz and Akliush, I think are more prospects at this point. Honestly, for my own sanity, I'm just assuming that we're not going to sign anyone, and then Thomas Frank is going to make the most of this squad, and that he's pragmatic about it throughout not go for all 4 competitions, because that just, with this current squad, it just won't be realistic, right? So either prioritize the Premier League or the Champions League, one of the cups, 2 of the cups. I feel like, just for my own sanity, that's kind of the best way to approach the rest of this transfer window and the rest of the season going forward.
Expect the unexpected, being a Spurs fan, and I've always said nothing will surprise me anymore. Whether we sign 4 players this week or whether we sign none, it wouldn't surprise me either way. Terry, we could literally talk to you all day, but we do have a lot of other people waiting, and we have a lot of people in the green room. So thank you so much for coming on, and we will talk to you again very soon, and hopefully you and I are still smiling.
Yes, absolutely. Great to be on times like this. Let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy it minute by minute. It's
absolutely.
This is what we live for here. So thanks
Guys. Terry.
Great to
speak to you soon.
Chris, can
Right.
we, before we bring the next guest on, can we just say from all the Spurs family, a bit of love towards Andy Sinton, who unfortunately was unwell on Friday.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure everyone will join us in wishing him the best for a recovery. So hopefully Sints will get better for us all.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Si. Yeah, sadly, Andy Sinton suffered a heart attack on Friday evening, but the current QPR ambassador is currently resting in hospital. So we wish all of the very best and send our love to him. Now we're going to go to Singapore and go to Dustin. Dustin, how are you?
Good to see you again. Is your hair moving?
Good to see you. How are you?
Is your hair moving tonight?
No, not moving tonight.
Is this a personal joke? I wasn't on the stream, was I?
You weren't. No.
No. Okay. Right. We'll move on. Dustin, how are you feeling after that Manchester City win? And has it given you more confidence under Thomas Frank and this squad?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the best things about that City game was watching how high we were pressing them, because I think we were a bit concerned about style of play, right? Which is like, how are we going to play against the big clubs? Are we going to be a counter-attacking team and trying to make the most of that? Because I think that would have put us in a place where we might not get as much results against the top teams as we might expect to, and as we would expect ourselves to play. But what I found interesting was the way we were pressing them. It was kind of the aggression and the depth at which we pressed them, because I would see.
Dustin, sorry to interrupt. I think a lot of people are having problems in hearing. Could you turn the sound up a little bit if you can?
Sure, let me just check quickly. Can you hear me better now?
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think one of the I think, yeah, I'll start from the beginning. But basically for City, I think what was the most heartening was watching our approach, pressing them high, because I think we kind of assumed under Frank that we wouldn't be pressing high, we'd be playing more counter attack. But the height at which we pressed them, there were times I would see their six drop in and Van der Ven would be pressing them, and sometimes you'd see Romero up there as well. And I think that when just watching how aggressive we were, and looking at how Trafford was a new part of the puzzle that City had put in, and how aggressive Frank was in pushing Trafford into making that mistake. That wasn't, I don't think it was Trafford's fault. I think that we put them under the kind of pressure that forced them to make the mistake. And that's the kind of like tactical, I would say the tactical fluidity that Frank has, which is not so much we play our way and the same for every game, but this is a potential area, so we're going to have pressing triggers to make sure that we put this player under pressure so that they make a mistake. That was what I found really interesting about that game.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. While you ask your question, Dustin, if you can turn it up a little bit more. People love to hear your opinions, and a lot of people are having trouble hearing.
All right. Trying to see.
We don't want you yelling.
Yeah.
My question for you, Dustin, is we got the Bournemouth game coming up. What do you think the lineup will be for the Bournemouth game, bearing in mind that Frank is flexing it for various teams and various situations that we face? How do you see that one playing out?
I think with the Bournemouth game, what we will probably see is possibly a formation that assumes a higher level of possession. So what's more likely to happen is that we are going to maybe we might see only one of Paulinia and Sar. I think probably Sar, depending on how much possession we expect to have. I think that in general, when we're playing teams that would basically not have where we expect to have to press them more and cover more ground, we would see a combination of like Sar, Paulinia, Bentancur. I think that's basically our where we play as many ball winners as we can. And then with teams where we expect to have more possession, that's where we might, that's where we would actually want that creative 10 to help us unpick the lock. So I would expect with Bournemouth we might actually play. We probably won't play five at the back, and we would probably play more, maybe a Bergval instead of a Sar Bentancur and Paulinia combination. So basically, we would expect to possess the ball more, and we expect to have more creativity. So we rely on like Kudus, maybe a Bergval to like have more angles, have more through passes through the middle.
Dustin, what do you think will happen with the future of Yves Bissouma? Do you think he's going to get another chance under Thomas Frank? Because interestingly today, the Football Insider here in the UK have stated that Everton are plotting a move for him. Is it time for him to leave, or can Thomas Frank get the very best out of him?
I think that it's likely that he will leave primarily because it's not the first time, and you've had multiple managers now talk about disciplinary issues, whether it's with balloons, being late for training and things like that. So in particular with managers that have emphasis on like the collective and how the team plays together, you can't have someone that turns up late, right? It's like a person that doesn't train well getting selected. It just doesn't set a good example for the rest of the team. So in all likelihood, I think that if he is not meeting Frank's standards, and it's very early on for Frank to be leaving him out of games, like less than 10 games into his tenure, suggests serious problems that are he's crossed a red line of some kind for him to be just completely left out. So I don't see him coming back from this unless there's some kind of monumental change in attitude, and we've seen it from previous managers that this seems to be a recurring theme.
I think Matt Wells plays into that as well, because he's had him before, hasn't he? And he's aware of what he's up to, and I think that plays into it, that it is a recurring theme and it won't change. Bissouma aside, Dustin, do you think that the players like Solomon, Hill, etc., will manage to get them out the door before the window closes?
We haven't been very good at selling players off lately, so that's the other part about it that concerns me, which is lack of transfer activity both in and out. Because if we can't offload players from the books, then our club being what it is like how much am I going to put on the books if I've got these players that I might have to cancel their loan, I might have to sell them off, I might have to cancel the contract just to get their wages off the books. So I would think that, and when I look at the transfer market, similar to Terry, I have no interest in for my heart, I'm not going to keep up to date with this, but I think that
you will.
I will, but I was enraged with the Azir saga. First of all, that we put so many eggs into a childhood Gooner fans basket. We should never have committed as much time to that transfer as we did, because it was always there for Palace to go to use that as leverage, and that now finding out that Arsenal had a deal like weeks before, but just so that they could gazump us. That Levy puts the chump in gazump. It's seriously unbelievable how we let this happen to us twice in the same window.
Yeah. And then there's been rumours about Odebear. Do you think he'll stay or go?
I am not sure about that, because if there are rumours about Odebear, then that means that we have question marks around our left wing. And if we do have question marks around our left wing, considering that now we're starting to play Johnson there as well, then that leads me to question what we are trying to do along that left side. Also, if Odebear goes, we've also renewed Tel and Odebear are close friends. So I'm just wondering about that. I think Odebear he's still fairly young. I'm not sure whether we've seen his potential yet. But I think that if we're moving Odebear on, then why do we let Mikey Moore go? right? Because
Yeah, I can't see Odegaard leaving. One player though that we haven't spoken about, and he seems to be forgotten about by a number of Spurs fans, but he did actually post on social media a couple of days ago saying back in training, Manor Solomon. Dustin, what do you think will happen to Manor Solomon? Will he get sold on, or will he actually get a chance at Spurs because he only played a handful of games under Ange?
I suspect that it's quite likely he gets moved on. There are a number of reasons why, but like injury record is one part. We've never seen him perform in the league or like with Fulham, but how he plays for Fulham is different from how he played for us. So I'm not sure we'd necessarily see that happen just because we haven't had enough mileage of him in that position to make a decision. And I think Frank hasn't seen enough of him as well in competitive games. So I don't see anything happening unless we have an injury crisis and all these players need to come back in again. I mean, we still have Brian Hill on the books as well. So if we're talking about players that can play in that position, we have a bunch of players that are there that we haven't sold on.
Dustin, if the transfer window does close and we don't do any more business in the next 8 days, what rating out of 10 would you give this window?
The only reason that the rating isn't lower is just how well Kudus and Palhinha have done. And Palhinha is a signing that I wanted when Ange was around, even though a lot of people didn't feel he was a profile fit. But just because like people speak as if he can't pass the ball at all, but he can do some long switches. He's just not the kind of metronomic kind of player. Just because he's not Modric doesn't mean he doesn't fit the system, right? So I think that based on how well Palhinha and Kudus have fit in, that raises the average level of the transfer window. But the debacle that has been, Morgan Gibbs White and Eza has to really bring it down to a 6, I think.
Si, can I ask you that question as well? If the window closes and we don't sign another player, what rating out of 10? Or if you don't want to do a rating, just give me one word to describe the window. Try and be clear.
One word would be average. But I will give you a score out of 10. At the moment, for me, it's a 4. Because for me, we can't be too short Tottenham again, and we have to deal with the players that that aren't good enough for the club. We need to deal with Basuma. In my opinion, we need to deal with Hill, and we need to deal with Solomon as well. So I would give it a 4, and it's been average so far. If you look at it across everything that we've done, that's where I sit with it.
And the fact is we're still playing one game a week, so we're not feeling the adverse effects yet when we start having to play a game every 3 days. So we've seen that that happened last season, and I seriously hope that whatever we've done, the sports science department and the medical department has really made huge strides, because if we go through an injury crisis like that again, we are going to rue not making signings in this window.
But I just want to make one point on that again. For me, is you have to have the level of quality in the players to rotate so that you can. If you're playing Real Madrid away on a Wednesday, you want to be playing Van der Ven, Romero, Porro, pick your choice of left back. But then you can't expect them to go out again the following Saturday to play Leeds away, and then the following week you've got Barcelona at home because of the pot 1 draw. You cannot flog those players like we did last year. So that's why we need as Chris and I have been banging on about probably for months now, you've got to have the depth in the squad, and you've got to have the quality in the depth in the squad so that you can change it around and not affect any tournament detrimentally.
Dustin, sorry, I was going to say, last question for you, because you probably heard what I said to Terry, or asked Terry, about the board thinking, well, Thomas Frank's done a good job and we're winning matches. Why do we need extra players? However, you could see it the other way of thinking, well, we've got Palhinha in, we've got Mohamed Kudus in. These 2 guys have made an immediate impact into this starting 11. If you were a football person and you understood football well and you were a football owner, surely you'd be thinking down the lines of, God, these two players have made a real impact. If we got another two players in that could make a real impact in this starting 11, we could do something special.
But that assumes that you have an owner that actually cares about the football, not filling the stadium with concerts and boxing matches.
But
So I think
but they've come out and said we want to win the Champions League, we want to win the Premier League, we want to win trophies, we want to win more.
don't listen to what they say, see what they do. Right? As long as we have an owner that continues to, like, it's all lip service, right? There are all these, like, to me, it's far more worrying that he is speaking in public, because it means that he wants to balance off the lack of action with words. So I would rather a chairman that doesn't speak in public but just gets business done. And you know, with the Ezra deal, it was the same old thing. How did we lose the deal? Because we were noodling over, oh, you know, what are the bonus payouts? So, like, we're just futzing over details like that. And no matter how cleverly you try to structure it, a player looks at that and goes, are you really serious about me? And that's why players don't sign, because you're noodling over those details that make them feel you seem to care more about the deal structure than you are about getting me over the line. So I'm going to go with the club that seems serious about me and will just go, come here, we want you here.
Yeah, but that's a good point, and I do feel like the attitude perhaps does need to change in the future. And you know, we've spoken at length about, you know, wage payments as well. You know, that needs to change at the football club if we want to be attracting the top talent. But it certainly does seem to be the theme, though, Si, this summer, doesn't it? Of we want players with Premier League experience. I like that. I like the fact that the club have gone out and tried to sign players with Premier League experience. Can you actually think of anyone else who could perhaps come in and do a really good job, and most importantly, improve the starting 11? You know, players that perhaps could move away from the Premier League, you know, a Premier League club to Tottenham, or a player that has Premier League experience that isn't playing in England that could perhaps come back to England and play for Tottenham and go in that starting 11. Can you think of anyone off the top of your head?
Well, if you've got the ambition, then you get the Savinho deal done, because he's got Champions League experience, he's got Premier League experience. There's one. And the other one for me is you go and get a Robinson from Fulham, because he solves a problem that you've got. So there are players out there. And again, if you want to do a loan deal, because you know you want to save funds for something else, or you want to put more into the Savio deal, then go and get Asensio, like Aston Villa did, who did a job for them in the Champions League. You know, and you could get him on loan, and then, you know, go for who you really want the summer after. So there's always players out there. So, you know, Asensio's got Champions League experience. That will probably do as well, wouldn't it, in that competition? And then if you're taking a Robinson who's got Premier League experience, you take in a Savinho who's got Premier League experience. You know, in my opinion, I can't believe it would happen because of the uproar. But if you got, you know, a Paqueta or Paquetá, however you say it, someone like that with Premier League experience, you know you're getting, don't you? So there are the players out there, but it's the desire of the club to go and get them. Having said all that, what I would say is that from all that we understand, the club are really trying to get Savinho, which is admirable. But if it doesn't happen, what is your plan C, D, E and F to fix that problem other than him? Because you have to be ready. And like I said, we've got to have the strength in depth. That's my view on it.
Dustin, lastly, what is going to make you happy personally as a Spurs fan? What's going to make you happy come the 1st of September at 7:01? The window closes at 7 p.m. here in the UK. So what's going to make you happy at 7:01? What needs to happen?
I mean, one of the signings that made me the happiest was when we signed Van der Vaart on deadline day. I still remember where I was on that day, partially because Van der Vaart was my favorite player from Ajax and you know, from his Ajax days. So it feels like it's been such a long time since we've signed a player that, you know, the club needs that is first choice that will come in and change. And maybe Kudus is like the closest we've come to that for a long time. But it feels like we don't sign players in their prime. We sign players when they're past their peak. We sign players when they're young and up and coming. But the last time we signed a player in their prime, it was like an Ndombele, and we all know how that turned out. And I think that's kind of like the reaction that the board has to splashing out money on signings, which has made them allergic to signing players. But it doesn't mean that you stop signing at that level. It means you get better at signing at that level, and you're not going to get better without experience. So for me, I don't think it's a player as much as it is a profile. It has to fill in the gaps that we have, especially with creativity. It has to be a first team player and not a depth player, because I would say that we see areas where we need to improve, because if we play certain teams, not having that creative player will result in us not being able to break teams down. So I would say that we need at least a creative player and possibly cover for left centre back, left wing, left centre back, left back.
Dustin, always such a great guest, and you are one Spurs fan that I could talk to literally all day long. So thank you so much for coming on, and we look forward to having you on the podcast again very soon.
Cheers, Dustin.
Cheers. Si, just before we move on to the next guest, what Dustin said there about not bringing in a player for depth, but bringing in a player for the starting 11. How will it go down with the fan base if suddenly we brought in one or two players that were, I don't know how to say it without being disrespectful, average signings, perhaps bench players for the future? How would that go down? Because I really feel like this window, everyone, including myself, has thought we need players for the first team. We need players to improve the squad. Yeah. And I might add that, and I said this earlier, Thomas Frank has said exactly this. We need to improve the team and the squad. So if we did go out and sign a couple of players just for the sake of getting a couple of players in, how would that go down, do you think?
I don't think it would go down very well, for sure. But if you're going to take two players, if you're saying to me that we're going to get, a Savinho and Hincapie, for me, I'd be happy. Now, am I saying that Hincapie is better than Van der Ven? No, but I think he's as good as Van der Ven. That's where I see, if you're going to get a squad player, well, let the pair of them fight it out to see who's going to be the better player and get they're similar quality, similar styles of playing. Let them fight them out. And if you've got two good players vying for every position, then naturally your team's going to be better. But I just don't think you can go out and get I don't know. I think if you're risking it on a Paz and an Akliouche or somebody that's unproven, I don't think it will go down very well with the fans at all. But also, I just think it's too high risk, because we know, and it doesn't matter which club you're in, you cannot have players unless it's exceptional, like Pedro Porro, who are going to give you 50 games a season, and we're guaranteed 48. And, I think we're capable of going a round or two in the cups. And I also think we're capable of getting out of the group stage of the Champions League. Therefore, we're already up to, 54 games without sneezing. And that's what you need the strength in depth for. I mean, all of us come on here and say we need to improve the depth. But when I say improving the depth, that's why I want a Hincapie or an Anthony Robertson, because they are as good as the incumbent player we've got. So when you do switch it around, there's no drop off in quality. That's how it sits for me.
Do you think, Si, because the Champions League draw is on Thursday, the 28th, so at that point, there will be 4 days left of the transfer window. So like I said earlier, we will play two teams from pot one, PSG, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona. We're going to play two of those teams. When that draw is made, is it going to be more like the fan base going, oh my God, we're going to be playing these teams in the Champions League? If Spurs haven't signed another player by Thursday when that draw takes place, Is it going to be like some of the fans, although we've had a good start to the Premier League campaign, is it going to be more highlighted that we need to do business?
I don't think it needs more highlighting, Chris, do you? Because look, just look at all.
Well, the reason I say,
I'll ask you a question: who's in pot 2? Okay, who's in pot 2 in the Champions League?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
No, but we're going to get 2 good teams from there as well.
Well, exactly. But what's an easy game? Like I had this conversation the other day with someone. When people said about us playing Burnley last week, they said it was an easy game. So last season when we played Ipswich and Leicester at home, they weren't easy games. We lost both of them. So there's no easy game in the Premier League. Every team and opponent is difficult in these competitions. We learnt that even under multiple different managers in Europa Conference League, Europa League, and the Champions League. So no easy games, but it's very fair to say that a lot of Champions League teams, particularly a team that has, won the Europa League, and you expect, the fan base expects the club to kick on. You virtually need 2 squads, like you've said. You virtually need 2 players in every position of equal quality.
Yeah, that's where we need to be. And that's what the board needs to do. But the problem with our board, once again, we sit here, the transfer window runs for 60 odd days. And here we are in the last 6th of it, scrabbling around, trying to get players to improve the depth in our squad. We've had history for it. But for me, it doesn't matter what happens on Thursday. We know if, as Daniel Levy and Vinay said, you want to compete on all 4 fronts, you have to have equal quality in depth for most of the positions. And if you take the squads that are going to do well this season, if you take the Woolwich Wanderers, if they play any 2 of Zubimendi, Rice, who's the other lad they bought? The guy Norgard, and I can't remember the other Spanish international they've got. But you compare any 2 of those into a team, and the quality doesn't drop, does it? So we have to have the same. That's where we're lacking, and that's where I still go back to say we need 4 players, because we do not have that strength in depth. Now, am I comfortable that Danso can do a good job in the Premier League when we're playing the Burnleys, the Leeds, and of course he can. Am I comfortable that Ben Davies alongside him is going to give us as much stability as an Nkape would? Not a chance. Sorry, it's not good enough. That's why I say we need 4.
Right, we're going to go to our next guest. We're going to go to Stu. Stu, we haven't spoke for a long while. How are you?
Yeah, I haven't seen you for a while, Stu. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, hey lads. I've been pretty busy, to be honest. Got married, found out we're pregnant, so
many congratulations.
Yeah, brilliant news.
I've been somewhat under the cosh, but yeah, I've
Spurs baby grows ordered, are they?
I don't think it's going to be a Spurs fan the way things are going, but
that's harsh. That's harsh.
I'm kidding. Definitely going to be a Spurs fan. I've already joked about releasing it down the Thames if it turns out to be an Arsenal fan. So,
dear.
Stu, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? Because we've started the season well. We haven't conceded a goal. We've scored 5. We've won 2 out of 2. How are you feeling right now about Thomas Frank? And are you feeling really optimistic about this season?
Yeah, in terms of management of the team and Thomas Frank, yeah, very positive. It's been a great start. I think it's been a great impact. It's very early days, but all the signs are pointing in the right direction. And, as much as I loved Ange and still do, there's more of a sense of stability and structure about what we're doing, which is fantastic. Do I still worry that the same problems are going to happen, behind the scenes? Well, we can see what's going on. So that is a big concern. You asked me at the end of last season, what are your thoughts? Now we've won the cup and, we're all in great spirits. Can we keep this going? Can we have a summer of investment that's being promised? It started well with Kudus. I was happy bringing Tellin. I think he's still a good prospect. And then, it's fallen off a cliff, obviously, since then. So yeah, mixed emotions for sure. But I'm happy where the footballing side seems to be. You know, let's see what happens in the next, what is it, 8 days, something like that.
Si, before you come in, pot 2 Champions League draw. Of course, we can't face Arsenal, but they are in pot 2. But Bayer Leverkusen, Atletico Madrid, Atalanta, Villarreal, Juventus, and Frankfurt.
Well,
No easy games.
That validates my point. And if we're in pot 3's none too shabby either, is it? To be fair, so from pot 1, I guarantee you we'll get Bayern Munich. It's going to happen. We will get Bayern Munich without fear of trepidation on that one. So, my question for you, Stu, is that you talked about the background of the club there and what's going on behind the scenes. What do you think that Vinay's role is, and how much influence do you think he has at the moment? And do you think that it will change or it won't change? What's your view on that position?
I think that's a great question, because what I was quite looking forward with him coming in was that he seemed to be that vocal part of, well, when he was at Arsenal, he was coming out, talking to the fans, communicating all of the things that we haven't been getting, for the vast majority of Levy's stewardship. I was looking forward to him being a communicator of what the club is doing, what it wants to do, its plans. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've heard from him publicly yet, have we?
Well, only the interview with Daniel Levy, where they were saying we want to win the league, sure. And that's the only kind of real thing we heard. And I think he went to the fans, one of the fans meetings, didn't he? And I think he was there and Levy wasn't. So he was on that side of the engagement side. But that's the only kind of public thing we've really seen him at. But
yeah, he's met the FAB and he's met the trust, so he has liaised with them.
Okay, there's been some. I haven't seen anything myself, which perhaps is just me being out of the loop a little bit. But I wanted to hear that regular communication that he seemed to be doing well at Arsenal, and I think that link between the top of the club and the fans is needed, because we're often just feeling like we're left in the dark with what's going on, especially with transfer strategy. It's clear as mud, isn't it, most of the time? So, yeah, I'd like to see that. I hope we see more communication. It's we all know what a shit show it's been the last few weeks. I want to hear. I want to hear something about it. Where, okay, even if it's excuses, I want to hear something. Like, what's been going on? How have we got to this point? How are we looking like a laughing stock? Not with one transfer, but 2 transfers, and now we're shopping about. Like with Dale Winton. Do you know what I mean? It's embarrassing, and I don't like it. And I want to hear from the club.
Supermarket sweep, you mean?
Yeah.
There we go. Beep beep. Never thought that reference was coming tonight, did you?
I'll tell you, this is why I love these fan shows. You never ever know what's coming next. I never thought I'd be mentioning supermarket sweep on a podcast here, on a fan show. So, to answer your question about pot 3, PSV, Ajax, Napoli, Sporting, Olympiacos, Slavia Prague, and Marseille, and Monaco are between pots at the moment.
Yeah. Well, again, so you're in Europe's elite competition, so you have to have that squad depth. And also, but this is for the fan base. I don't think the fans will tolerate anything in the lower half of the division this season, no matter what we do. Stuart, I'd ask that to you. What are your expectations for a league finish?
It's hard until we get to the end of the window. I certainly don't want to cop out of that answer. As we stand right now, if we get top 8, quite frankly, that seems to be not a bad result. If we also make a bit of a mark in the Champions League, certainly if we get beyond the group stage, I consider that a success in those terms. And I'd love us to see have a run. Love to see us have a run in the FA Cup or the League Cup. But right now, I'm a little bit worried. actually by how well Sarr has performed, because you can just hear the cogs of Levy's brain saying, why do we need a number 10? Sarr's playing great. We play him until Kulusevski comes back, until Maddison. You could just hear that potentially going on. And you know, we're putting some bids in here and there. The Paz thing looks far too complicated for my liking. I'm struggling to see that happen in the time left. Look, El Canous looks like a good signing for, you know, where we are right now. Get him done. It should be a relatively simple one, but of course, nothing is as simple as it seems. Palace are in for him as well, of course. So
who does it seem when Levy's involved?
I know. I mean, could I ask the question back to you guys? You know, what would you consider a success of this season as you know, where we stand right now?
As we stand right now, I would say that probably between 6th and 8th in the league, and that's on the basis of, you know, Thomas Frank being a tactician with the squad we have now. If we don't improve the squad significantly, as Chris has said, with players that are of first team quality or equal quality of the players they take out, then I think we struggle to get out of the Champions League phase. And then the cups, well, it depends on Frank's approach to it, because I don't think we have the strength in depth to put out strong teams when we're resting players per se as we are at the moment. So we could go a couple of rounds in each of those. And it's all to do with the draw. But I think 6th to 8th as we stand now, bring in, you know, the right qualities of player, and you could be anywhere from 5th to 8th, in my opinion. So I think, and then if you have got a deeper squad, then you can go probably have a good run in one of the cups, one of the domestic cups, and maybe get out of the league stage of the Champions League, but not as we stand at the moment for me.
Davo says here, 7th in an FA Cup. I feel like that would be a successful season, definitely, if we won a trophy and improved on the league position. But you've got to be, you know, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club have got to be aiming for a European spot via the league table, 100%. And sorry to state the obvious here, but we really did struggle in terms of squad selection, you know, injuries, etc. And this is why Ange put all of the eggs in the basket of the Europa League. So whenever we played a Europa League game and then we played a league game straight after that, a couple of days later, those are the games where we really, really struggled. And I just don't want to see that happening again. And I know, like, some people would see it as a negative of, like, you know, people like us just banging on, saying, well, we need players, we need players. We're not just saying it because we're moaning fans. We're saying it because we're you know, realists in that you know what's going to happen. It's not sustainable where you can keep playing the same players. You know, I can't say that enough times. And I feel like the football club, they know that. They know that. So they know what they've got to do. So yeah, Stu, we'd love another trophy. We'd love another trophy, obviously.
We've all got, you know, look at our background. So I'm sorry to interrupt. We've all got our backgrounds. You know, we're still riding off that. You know, it's been that long, and we need more of it. Frank,
do you know what? Do you know what though, Stu? And you know, I want to change my background. I want to change my background every year to have a different squad up there, and Thomas Frank lifting a trophy. So you know, that's what we want. And you know, and I've said this many times, whoever was at that parade, or whether you watched it on TV, wherever you were in the world, and you saw those images of that parade, it was goosebumps. Every single time I talk about that parade, I get goosebumps. It was incredible, and we just want to have that again. You know, every fan wants to win trophies and be successful, but when we waited that amount of time and then we lifted that trophy, I don't know, in some ways it just made it more and more special. I don't know how, like, when Man City win trophy after trophy after trophy, do you does it feel, you know, just as good when you keep winning trophy every year? You know, I want to
find out.
I'd like to find out.
Exactly. That's what I want to know. Yeah.
It's you know, hook it to my veins kind of thing, right? I need more of that. Yeah. You know, overall, I'm positive, but the window has it has put a bit of a dampener on things, to say the least. And but I hopefully whatever happens for the next week or 8 days, look, at that point, we just got to get on with the season. We know that Frank will utilize the team in a pragmatic way, game to game, and I'm excited about that. Compared to Ange's kind of more balls to the wall approach, which was great as well. But we've got lots to look forward to. But I would love to see a real bit of quality come in, as we all would before the end of the window, just to push us on.
Stu, we'll say it again. Many congratulations to you and your good lady, and best of luck with the pregnancy, etc. So best of luck with all of that. And we've got you booked on the podcast very soon. So we look forward to seeing you and talking to you again very soon.
Can't wait. Thank you, boys. Good to see you.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Bye.
Did Craig warn you, Si, that these shows can go on for 5 hours plus?
Absolutely. I've warned everybody here at home as well, so we're good. We're good.
Don't worry.
As we want to talk Spurs, we're good.
We are nearly there. We're now going to go to Canada. We're going to talk to John. John, hello. I gather you're home now from hospital. How are you?
I'm a lot better, thank you. Yeah. My heart goes out to your friend who had a heart attack this week. Si, I don't know who he is, but I wish.
Oh, he's an ex-Spurs player.
Oh, okay. So I didn't understand who he was. I wish him well. Not a nice experience, I would say.
John,
and I want to thank Chris and Craig for keeping me informed while I'm laying there pretty pissed off.
Well, we want to keep you informed about more signings, John. What's the chances? How are you feeling overall as a Spurs fan? I know you've just come out of hospital, and that can't be easy being in there. But as a Tottenham fan, have you been impressed with what you've seen so far? And have you been surprised by Thomas Frank and the way that we've set up?
Well, let's take that question first. Am I surprised? Yes. Am I confident? Yes. My head's out of the clouds and my feet are on the floor. Let's remember 3 weeks ago, we were asking the question, how many points will we have after 5 games or 6 games? Mm-hmm. And the optimists amongst us were saying 10.
Yep.
I don't know what the optimists are saying now. I mean, if we go into the international break with 9 points, then that is perhaps the best start we've had for some considerable time. I think since about 2003, I think it was. So bring on Bournemouth. I'd love to see us take those guys apart. I watched their game yesterday. They are beatable. Transfers, Kudos and Paulinho, I think, are world-class acquisitions. So whoever brought those in, well done, guys. I owe Betancourt an apology. I wanted him gone. Basuma, send him to Everton, Fulham, the MLS, anywhere you like.
Can I ask, John, do you want a fee for him?
Yeah.
Of course we do.
Yeah.
Ship him to Fulham. Ship him to Fulham. Tell him, you lucky boy, you can stay in London. And send us Robinson, and we give them 20 mil for him.
Yeah, fair play.
I think it wouldn't be a bad deal.
Then,
we need a left back.
I agree with that. My next question for you, look.
Hold on, Si. Hold on. Do we need a left back? Do we need a left back when you've got Jed Spence performing the way that he does? And we spoke about this on the last fan show, that I don't think anyone has ever picked up or actually come out and said that we miss Destiny Udogie when Jed Spence is in the team at left back.
I thoroughly agree with you. I remember laying in my bed last week and saying to you that Jed Spence is a revelation. And why not? I mean, do we need another one? Well, we're all saying we like 2 players to cover every position, and we want to move Jed Spence over to cover the right back, and we need someone to cover Destiny and Dogany if he was to come back in the first team. I feel somewhat sad for Ben Davies because we're not including him anymore. But I can see Ben Davies playing at Tamworth for us, but not at Old Trafford. which is sad. And I think, in some respects, I was pleased we kept him, but some respects, it would have been good to given him the opportunity to go to Wrexham or somewhere where he wanted to go at that point.
He's a Swansea boy, so that one might be difficult.
Yeah, I understand.
That's
understand
a
North and
rivalry as
South
Spurs
Wales.
and Arsenal are, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand North and South Wales, but
Yeah.
I mean that's understandable. He's better than going to Cardiff, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So
my
do we
question
need
for-
another left back? Why not?
Yeah, I
Why not?
agree. I
Why
think
not?
we
We
should.
need some depth. We've all been saying that. The big word has been depth. Let's bring in a bit of depth.
But if we don't get a left back though, there's nothing to stop us getting a right back. The thing that I don't want to see is I don't want to see Archie Gray being forced to go and play as fullback again. I don't think it's good for the lad. I don't think he's his natural position. And I don't mind if we get a right back and leave Jed Spence and the doggy fighting out the left back position. We've got no problem with that at all. So I just think we need 4 fullbacks, whatever they're made up of.
That would be fine. Yes, that would be fine. Going forward, there we've got what do we do if, and no one's looked at those questions. What do we do if and when Maddison comes back? What do we do if and when Kulusevski comes back? We haven't resolved those issues. Do we put them on the back burner because we are facing who do we go with now? But so looking for an extra player in the middle there, or a number 10 as you call him, Les Allen, or whether we used to have Jimmy Greaves.
He wasn't a bad number 10. Or an H. Kane wasn't a bad number 10 either.
No, I'll just throw my name in. Who do we, who do we leave out at that point? And will we be looking at come January when we've got a fit again Kulusevski and maybe hopefully a fit again James Maddison? Who are we looking to say, well, who can we shove out the door now?
These are good problems to have for a manager, though, John. And these are long. At the moment, they look like they're long-term injuries. Maddison's going to miss most of the season, if not the whole season, and Kulusevski is out for another good few months. We're being told, the turn of the year, 2026. So that's a long time, and that is an awful lot of games. So, worry about that in months down the line. But
we can worry about that at Christmas, all right. But it should be set. We need to put that on the table. The others going out the door, Manor Solomon. Yeah, thank you. Goodbye. Who was the other one you mentioned there?
Brian Hill and
Brian Hill.
Davis.
I mean, Brian Hill would play. What I saw him once, I think, at Crystal Palace or something. I mean, I don't remember him anywhere else. He played that night at Crystal Palace, or an afternoon at Crystal Palace, and quite frankly, he was okay. All right. He didn't set the world on fire, and he went off somewhere on loan and never came back, and now come back, and we don't know what to do with him. So,
John, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So you were saying about optimistic. People said we'd get, 9 points out of the first 4, 10 points out of the first 4. The next 5 are Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, Wolves, and Leeds. How many points do you think we're getting out of those?
Well, we've got 6, so I say 4.
What about you, Chris? Where are you on the next 5, Chris? How many points for you out of Bournemouth, West Ham, Brighton, Wolves, and Leeds?
Look, when we've got Thomas Frank playing the way we are and being so versatile and so tactically aware and changing things up week by week, I can't see us losing those games. Si.
No, fair play.
Is that all right?
We're going 21 points from the first 7, is it?
And there's me telling people don't get carried away.
I'm in that position. Don't get carried away. Feet out the clouds, and feet on the floor and head out the clouds. Let's take each game as it comes.
That's exactly what I was going to say, John. Yeah.
Well, the other thing as well is
let's take Bournemouth. Is it Saturday? This Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
And then West Ham after that. I'd like to see us beat West Ham, and then we can worry about Brighton, and we can worry about.
There will be some Champions League games in between them as well.
Precisely, we've got other things there to stretch out the players.
Yeah.
That is
the depth.
That's what's going to be interesting once we start playing the midweek games and the weekend games. That's when it's going to really hot up, and that's when, of course, the squad will be stretched, and that's going to be the real test. So, we'll stress again, saying, get a couple more signings in. John, how realistic is it that we're going to get a couple of, or even one player to walk into the starting 11? Because, it's very fair to say, João Palhinha, Mohamed Kudus, they have made a real impact in this starting 11. Palhinha is the number 6 that we've been crying out for the last couple of years, as I said. Kudus, I don't know how much you've seen of him, but I've been so impressed with him during pre-season and in these 2 games so far. An absolute baller. Defensive work, brilliant. Attacking work, brilliant. On the ball, so comfortable. Goes past players just with ease. He looks an absolute superstar. I'm so excited about him. But how confident are you as a Spurs fan the next 8 days that we can bring at least one in that can walk straight into this team and improve it and make a real impact like these other 2 have?
You're not going to find another Kudus off the shelf, are you? I saw him, I've seen both games, the league games, and I've seen highlights of the tour games, etc. And I went to the pub to watch the final against PSG. So he's got, the boy's got talent, right? Way he ran around that Burnley fullback and put the ball across for that goal, the first goal against them, where Richie banged it in like a bullet. And I was saying to myself, well, where's he been like the last 18 months? Why couldn't he have done that before? But so hopefully, you're not going to find another one off the shelf like that. I would drop the relationship with Manchester City. They're taking their time. They're taking us on a lump of string, and let's go find somebody else.
I don't know whether that's fair about Man City, because they've said on a number of occasions we don't want to sell. It's us really pushing because we want to buy him.
That's what
and the player wants to come, doesn't he, as well?
Leave them. They're going to dictate the price. They're going to take us right down to 7 o'clock here. I think it'll be on Labor Day Monday. Why are we spending so much energy on that?
Well, I think we're spending energy on that because that's a player that Thomas Frank wants. And if you look at, his stats, he is the creative equivalent of Kudus on the other side. And, we watched Dom Solanke last year being starved of chances. We've had two games this season where we've made some chances, and lo and behold, we score and win. That's what it comes down to me. It's not rocket science, but you need to have these players of equal quality. Can I just put something else up, Chris? This is from Pletty Gold. Piero Incapi has decided to leave Bayer Leverkusen if a suitable offer arrives. The decision has been made, and he has a 60 million release clause. Daniel Levy, get on the phone now, pay 60 million euros and get that deal done.
What's that about? £52 million. Go for it.
Go and get it done. End of.
Yeah, end of.
Left back cover, left centre back cover. There's your man. Go and get him.
Right.
If only we did business like Si, we'd just be buying them just like that.
Yes. It's like buying the player off the power in the market.
Release clause in it. How have we done with those recently?
Si, in your old age, have you played Championship Manager?
Mate, I have. I remember Premier Manager when it was done on a Commodore 32 or whatever it was. Anyway, there you go.
I've got a Commodore 64 sitting in my shed.
That's it.
I'll tell you what, that'd be worth a fortune, John.
Wow. Easy to sign players on a computer. Yeah, if only it was as easy as that for Tottenham.
My Commodore 64 sitting in the shed. Got to find a hope for it.
John, how do you expect the Bournemouth game to go on Saturday? Are you expecting another win? And whilst we're going into the international break, so of course Thomas Frank is not going to worry about players who have played the previous week, and we're not going to be playing midweek either. So he's got the full squad to choose from. What do you think will happen with Dominic Solanke? Will he come off the bench again, or do you think that Solanke will start? Sorry, do you think Richarlison will start again?
I'd give Solanke a run. It's against his old club. He's probably goal hungry. Give him a run, and we say we've got to ring changes. Let's ring the changes and give him a run. What worries me, can we take one step? I think we're going to win Bournemouth and maybe 2-3-0, and that's all we need. If we got a clip, if we don't concede a goal going into the championship, the international break, and we've got 3 wins under our belts, well, that's great. Well, let's look beyond West Ham.
Yeah, you want to go that? You want to go that far forward? I thought we were taking one game at a time.
Okay, I'm taking one game at a time. We could be facing a West Ham with a new manager coming back after the international break.
True. Yeah.
Can I just say the way we're all talking and the way things are panning out, I'm having a quick scan through the fixtures. It looks like it's going to be Brighton at home when we get given the trophy for winning the league.
Well, I was going to say, Si, can you work out our first defeat? What is it, about March 26th?
Yeah, well, I can't see one.
I love it. I tell you what, we're now getting comments about Commodore 64. And did I never ever think that I'd be doing a stream about talking about supermarket sweep and Commodore 64s? It's amazing what we talk about on here. Yeah.
Somebody send me an offer. They can have it.
Yeah. Well, John, stay well. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep resting up. And we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, guys. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Wow, the subjects we cover on here, Si, honestly. Right, we're now going to go to Zach. Zach, how are you?
I'm all right, Chris. How about you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan, and what do you make of the win at City?
I think I came on the show last year, not the podcast. I think Burnaby, some of the Europa League games last year, and I think last year the mood was up and down. With the fan base. But I think the way we started the season, the team looks more. We've still got that attacking element that Spurs fans we would love to see, but it looks more structured. Like the team looks more structured in how they play. Like we seem to everything we do as a team. So we'll attack as a team, but we'll also defend as a team. And we don't look scared about getting stuck into challenges now. We're winning second balls. We're getting stuck in. We're stopping the press. We're stopping attacks, and we look confident. And even when we played PSG, I think when we played PSG, a lot of people thought, PSG are going to go walk all over us here. But I actually think I know people can say PSG are tired. We have more pre-season, but they've got to be seen as probably the best team in the world at the moment. And for a good 85 minutes, I'd say we looked like the best team.
Yeah, and their subs changed it for them, didn't it? Really, and the quality of their subs, which is what we're saying about Spurs. You got to have the quality. I've got a question for you. You're looking at behind you, Zach. You've got your Kulusevski shirt on the wall there. When he comes back, where do you see him playing? Do you see him ever being on the wing again, or do you just see him as being either an 8 or a 10? Where do you see him fitting into the system with Thomas Frank in charge?
Well, I think as we've been linked to Savinho, I've been reading today that Tottenham are lining up a £60 million plus bid for him. But also, I don't know how true that is, if we are going to go for 60 million or whether Daniel Levy is going to try and hassle the price down like he always does. But But I think if we do get another winger, I think Kulusevski will play in the 10. But again, like you've been saying the whole show, like whether we're going to play Kulusevski in the 10, we need to sign someone to cover us from now. And then when Kulusevski and Madison come back, it gives them competition to fight for their place back in the team. It can't just be they come back from injury, fine, have your place back. Like you come back from injury, you earn the place back.
Yeah.
Zach, the very latest on the Savinho situation. TalkSport are stating that Tottenham are still pushing for the player, and they are willing to pay 70 million euros. But Man City are asking for 80 million euros to even consider a sale. Now, Man City have been very consistent in saying that they don't want to sell the player, because they're worried that, well, they know the quality of the player. That's why they want to keep the player. They want to keep every single quality player that they've got. Would you spend that money? Would you go and break the bank if you were Tottenham Hotspur Football Club and you were on the club's board, and if you were Daniel Levy, would you go and spend that amount of money on this player?
Well, I think like if Thomas Frank's gone to the board and said, "I want Savinho," Savinho is the kind of player that I want in my team. He'd improve the team. He'd improve the way we play. Then why not? Why not back the manager? Like you look at all the managers we've had in the years, and actually, I don't know if you've seen it in 4-4-2. There's an article about Thomas Frank, and that he nearly quit football in youth football. So I won't say too much. Obviously, if people have got 4-4-2, they may want to read it themselves.
Yeah.
But I think we've been through so many managers over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And like, if you're not going to back a manager, you're not going to get success. Like we've had Mourinho, we've had Conte, who are the proven serial winners of trophies, but they never managed to. Like, I don't know, Mourinho, you could say, is unlucky. He got sacked a week before a cup final. And then we sack Ange after he won us a trophy. I know that we finished 17th in the league, and that's not acceptable like, for the club of the size of Tottenham. But last season should have been a wake-up call to Daniel Levy and the board that we will have injuries. And when we have injuries, we need the quality players to back up the first-team players, because Van de Ven's very good, but it's like everyone knows. If you have a very quick player, they're going to be very susceptible to getting hamstring injuries or muscular injuries. And I think it's one of those things. Once you've done your hamstring once, it's bound to happen again at some point.
Sorry to interrupt, Jack. Sorry, can I ask you a quick question? What Zach? I want to pick up on what Zach said there about backing the manager. We hear this term a lot. We hear it amongst the fan base. We hear it on the radio, the TV, literally everywhere. Back the manager. That term, back the manager. What is the definition of backing Thomas Frank in this transfer window? Because bringing in a player, Mohamed Kudus, £55 million. I know we signed Kota Dekai as well for $5 million. So and then you can look at Danso, Vluskovic, and Tel. I know some people don't like to include them in this transfer spend, but it is officially in this transfer spend in this window. Polini are on loan, of course. What's the definition of backing the manager? How many players is it? How much money is it?
I don't think it comes down to money, insofar as Tottenham as a football club, as I've banged on about repeatedly, the money that we have or had available, as you will see in the accounts when the FFP stuff comes out at the end of the year for the June year end, we had cash, and you'll see it when the accounts get published next year. We had cash, we've got cash, and that was before we did anything else with capital injections or sponsors or whatever else. So I won't be fooled by that. But it's not a money amount for me. It's giving the manager the players that he wants in the positions that he wants. Now, for me, if you go and look at FB Ref or whatever, look at the statistics for Kudus and Savinho. They are very, very, very alike because they give you that dynamism down the wing. So therefore, if Thomas Frank is saying he wants Savinho, then you have to, the difference between 70 million euros and 10 million and 80 million euros is 10 million, which is one event at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for a concert or whatever. That's what it is. It's one of those. And what people don't factor in is if you don't do it, it's the opportunity cost. Because what if, as I've said on the show on Wednesday night, if you go from 8th place to 4th place, that's £12 million. So it's 15 million euros. So this penny pinching for 10 million euros is absolutely ridiculous. And again, take the team from 17th to 7th, 30 million quid, 45 million euros, whatever it is. So that's why paying an extra 10 million for Savinho, if that is the player that your manager wants to play the style of football he wants, is irrelevant in the scheme of money ball that football is. You're missing the opportunity. So backing the manager for me is going out and getting him the players he wants in the positions that he wants and making sure you have that strength in depth.
Zach, I suppose it would be seen if a player like Savinho does come in for a record fee at Tottenham, and then you have a player like Mohamed Kudus who costs a lot of money as well, £55 million. I expect a lot of people will say that is backing the manager because we've spent a lot of money. Now, I've never been a fan that wants Spurs or demanded that Spurs go out and splash the cash and spend loads of money because, as I said on the channel many times, Lo Celso and Ndombele, £100 million on them two. They gave us very little output, actually, during their spells at the club. It's all about right decisions. You know, a player like João Palhinha, you're given a loan fee, but of course it is a loan with an option to buy at the end of the season. I think that's very good business. You know, it's about the deals, it is about the opportunities, and it's about, you know, ultimately bringing in the best players and making the right decisions. We've made a lot of bad decisions in transfer windows in recent years. What's your definition of backing the manager? Because like Si said, and I do agree with it, it's about bringing in the players that the manager wants. And I know that Antonio Conte, when he spoke about club signings, I know we could talk about this all day about Jed Spence being a club signing, turned out to be a very good signing in the end. I know he's gone through multiple different managers and, you know, multiple loans, but surely it's about the right decisions to be made.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I agree with Si, but I understand, obviously, where you come from. Obviously, we signed Ndombele for a club record fee at the time, and we signed Lo Celso. Neither of them really turned out. But the reason I was going on about Savinho, just paid at 80 million euros at Man City are saying that's the figure we'll consider a sale, is because he's got Premier League experience. He's played in the Premier League of Man City. He's played in the Champions League of Man City. So I think when we talk about a record fee, yes, we're paying a record fee, but we're paying it for someone that's proven that they can play at the high level in the Premier League. They can play at the high level in the Champions League. Whereas when you go out and spend 80 million euros, for example, on someone that hasn't played in the Premier League and hasn't really featured much in the Champions League, then that's a gamble because you don't know how they're going to compete in the Premier League or in the Champions League. They haven't proven that. But I think, like I said, it is what the manager. It's not about how much you spend. Thomas Frank could go to Daniel Levy and say, "We want Wissa from Brentford or Matoma from Brighton." There might be cheaper options than Savinho. But if that's the player that the manager wants, then, in my opinion, that's what the board should do. If Thomas Frank's gone to the board and says, "This is the player I want," or given him a list of 5 targets, like top target, second top target, etc., and then the board go out and they try and get them. I think that's the way that the board need to operate to support them, because, like, I don't even remember when Pochettino was in charge. Like, he turned around and said he has no control in the transfers, which sort of put a message out saying, I don't understand the transfers. The board signed the players they want to sign, and I've just got to coach them.
Yeah, that changed in the summer of 2019. I remember that really well. I was in Germany, in Munich, for the Audi Cup, and in the press conference there, one of the journalists said about the transfers, and he said, "No, I'm not the manager. I'm the head coach." And since then, it did really change about who was in control of signings at the football club.
Yeah, 100%. But I think obviously, like the club needs to just basically like whether the club think, "Oh, actually, is that worth it?" Your manager's going to know that it's the managers that work with that team, like week in, week out. So they're going to know what players are going to suit that system, what players they want to fit their system. And if the board like go out and say if Daniel Levy went out and back Thomas Frank, he signed the players Thomas Frank wanted, obviously within financial fair play rules and etc. Then Daniel Levy can come out and say, if it doesn't work out, he can come and say, "Well, I've signed the players that Thomas Frank wanted me to sign.
Yeah,
I've got the players that Thomas Frank wanted for his squad," and then the whole thing he might face less pressure from the fans because then the fans will say, "Well, actually, you've backed him, you've tried."
But we're all missing one point on this as well, and that is that Thomas Frank has come from a background where it was a data-driven approach that found the players that fits the profile that he wants in the team. Now, I urge everybody, go off and look on FB Ref and look at Savinho and look at Piero Hincapié and then compare them to Mohamed Kudus and Mickey van der Ven respectively. If you're going by data, they match up man for man pretty much the same. So if we're going for this data-driven approach, then you have to, it's called, congruency as well. It's all very well Daniel Levy and the other guys coming out saying we want to win the league. Well, then you have to make your actions match the words. And therefore, you would be getting players of similar quality to the ones you've won from your data-driven approach, as well as the eye test. Surely that's congruent, isn't it? Has to be.
100%. I don't know if you saw the interview he had with that Daniel Levy had with Gary Neville. And the one thing I didn't like when Levy turned around and was like, "Well, I think what people forget is I forgot the time frame he gave, but over a time frame we spent £700 million on net on new players."
Yeah.
But how many players of that 700 million are still in our first team?
Yeah, quite.
Yeah. Do you know what, Zach? I was a little bit disappointed with that interview because I felt like Gary Neville would have really gone in hard and asked a lot of very difficult questions or questions that a lot of us wanted the answers to. And I feel like that interview was pretty much a carbon copy of the club interview, the one that they put out with Vinay Venkatesham. So found that disappointing. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I think there's so much more that could have been said.
Yeah,
I think it was like I didn't like the fact how he went about like talking about the stadium. Like we know how good the stadium is, and how he's saying, "Oh, we wanted less plastic and more glass because of like the eco footprint," which is great. But we're coming off the back of a season where Andrew won this trophy, and I'll always be grateful for him for doing that because he's now taking the pressure off the players for this kind of season. He's probably he's taken that burden off Thomas Frank as well, because now Thomas Frank's not coming in and facing questions of saying, "Will you end Tottenham's trophy drought?"
But there's another point to me for me, which just sums it up. If you look, we are called Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Therefore, what should we be trying to be? A football club first. We're not called the Tottenham Recycling Centre or the Tottenham Renewable Energy Centre or whatever else. We are Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Surely we have to be a football club first. Surely.
And like when you look at like when Daniel Levy is saying we want to win the Champions League, we want to win the Premier League, we want to be winning, like competing on all fronts. But then you're coming out and making a comment saying over a certain time frame, we spent £700 million net on new players. When I think there's only a season or two ago, you look at the figures at like Arsenal, or Chelsea, or Liverpool, or Man City, like those kind of clubs are up there constantly challenging.
But their spend would have dwarfed ours.
Yeah.
And the other thing, if I was Gary Neville and I'd have had that said we spent 700 million, my next question would have been, well, how comes you spent it so badly then? But of course, in the sanitised world of when you're allowed to speak to Daniel Levy, those kind of questions would be ruled out before you even start, unfortunately.
Exactly, and I think when obviously during the show, like been talking about obviously the deals of Morgan as White and Eze had fallen through. The thing that frustrated me with Morgan Gibbs White is it almost seemed like there's obviously as soon as Nottingham Forest put their walls up and said, I know you made an illegal approach, it was obvious to me that the deal was very unlikely then to happen. Even though we agreed to pay his release clause, whatever, it seemed very unlikely to happen. But for some reason, we seemed to continue to hope that it would go through. And we didn't go for anyone else at the time.
Yeah.
And then, it's like you said with the Eze deal, like, so I think why didn't we just, if you had a release clause and we wanted them that badly, we knew that Arsenal had sniffed around him before. Why didn't we just pay the release clause and go that way? And then when I hear that, I don't know the truth in it. When I hear that Arsenal have come in, Daniel Levy then throws in Richarlison as part of it to try and bring the price down a bit. I'm just like...
That didn't happen. That's not what happened. Anyway.
And then obviously some things you read aren't true.
Yeah.
I was hoping I read that. I was like, I'm really hoping this isn't true because why would we be chucking in Richarlison as well as 50-odd million for Eze? It made no sense.
Zach, we could talk to you all day about Tottenham, but we do have a couple of other guests left, and so thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully you can join us on another show very soon.
I hope so. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, Zach. Cheers.
Chris, something that's making me laugh in the chat. You know, we were going on about old computers. So someone's put in their side, do you know what, or did you see a ZX Spectrum? I'm so old, I can go back to when we used punch cards on the county council computer. Honestly, the subjects we talk about on here. Right, we're now going to go to Charlie. Charlie, how are you?
Hi, Chris. Hello, Si.
Right, Charlie, you was very passionate. You were very passionate the other night, I have to say.
Well, I was upset about us not getting Eze. You know,
you were indeed, young man.
I love Eze. Well, I hate him now. Actually, I'm so happy that we ruined that mural. You know, he hasn't even put the shirt on yet, and they've made a mural of him. I think it's embarrassing. And whichever Spurs fan did that should get a free season ticket for life. I know some people say it's shameless, but that's what it's about, isn't it? 17th in the Europa League.
Hold on. Let me just put it out there. The podcast is not encouraging any vandalism. So let me just put that out there. Charlie's only joking.
Or hate.
Yeah, no. Please do not go and ruin all the Arsenal murals.
No. Charlie, how are you feeling after the win on Saturday? You must be delighted with that. And looking forward to the Bournemouth game on Saturday. Wouldn't it be great for all of us to go into the international break wearing our Spurs shirts, you know, to all of our, you know, friends, colleagues, family members, whatever, and showing off that shirt, showing off that badge, going into the international break, 3 wins out of 3. And wouldn't it be nice to have 3 clean sheets? And I don't think we've mentioned this yet. We had 6 clean sheets last season. For the whole of the season out of 38 games, and we've got 2 already out of 2.
Well, I heard someone say earlier, our best start in 3 games was 2002. If you don't remember correctly, it was Nuno. Nuno went 3 for 3, and then we went and lost 3. We won all the games 1-0, played rubbish. We had a +3 goal difference, played Chelsea. And
no, it was Palace. It was Palace.
Palace. 3-0. All went out the door.
Yep.
It was 3 1-0 wins and then 3 3-0 losses. So yeah, like it says at the bottom here, I've seen it all before. We've seen winning the first 3 games or getting clean sheets before. We've seen the 10th game be against Chelsea.
Yep.
And then it all just goes out the door. But, you know, you'd have heard me in my player ratings. I said, we keep playing like this, we could win the league, and that is not me being, deluded or anything. That is me saying.
I told you, Si. I told
you,
you, Si. The subjects we talk about on this fan show. I told you.
I'm being serious. I think we can do it.
Oh.
Because we probably played. That's the third hardest game of the season, and we won. I think I did an interview with someone who sits next to me at Tottenham, and I go to him, "Where do you think we're going to finish this year?" He goes, "Oh, I don't think we'll win it." And I said, "Well, we could." At the time I was very down. We lost the Super Cup. I thought, yeah, maybe we could win it. Maybe this is they beat Burnley, and now we've beaten City. Yeah, hopefully we can win it.
Hold on, Charlie. Hold on. Right. So, Si, as the experienced Spurs fan on this show tonight, how do we tell the youth Spurs fan that just to don't go there too soon?
Yeah, well, what we say to him is, what you need to do is go back and look over our history of performance for the past 25 years and temper your expectations in line with said performance. That's kind of where we go with it. But I do make him right, though.
I've never seen a coach who's been playing the football we have like we have under Thomas Frank.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone in the comments is roasting me, saying, get
Charlie,
this guy off. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Don't be silly. No, I'm only having a joke. It's I would love Spurs to go and do that. But
we've all got our backgrounds of the Europa League. Who'd have thought that? If we do win it, I want to be on it, and I will be laughing, saying, "Look, I told you."
Yeah,
but
I said we'd win the Europa League, Charlie, last August.
I thought we'd win the Europa League. Actually, I always said we would, and we did.
Charlie, let me ask you. Let me ask you who has surprised you so far. I know we're only 2 Premier League games in, but let's go back to the pre-season as well. So during pre-season, the Super Cup final, these 2 Premier League games. I know a lot of people are saying Sarr and Richarlison. Anyone else who has really surprised you that Thomas Frank has got a little bit more out of, and you think, wow, okay, we've got a player here.
Certainly Spence. We saw a very good Jed Spence last season. But I do think, towards the back end of last season, the Europa League final sort of time, the games for that, the Villa game and the Palace game, we were just resting players to prepare for that final. He didn't look so good. He started the season really strongly. I was really hoping he wouldn't start slow, which he hasn't. So really happy with that. Sarr, there is a star man. He's been absolutely incredible. Richarlison, he was rubbish in that Habaugi Trophy final, wasn't he? And now he's, in the form of his life, what we like to see. Kudus, obviously. I think everyone's doing really, really well, what we expect. And hopefully we can keep this up and win the league. But there is one more thing I wanted to add, actually. And on Wednesday, we got the Here We Go. Yeah. I said, Craig asked me, what would you rate the window out of 10? And I said, I'd rate it -1 billion. I was upset we didn't get Eze. I'm going to change that. I would give it a 4 out of 10. Because I do think the 2 signings we've made, I don't count Koto, Takai, Danso and Tel. I count Palhinha and I count Kudus. They're both top tier signings, and I'm really, really glad we signed them. What can make this window better is if we get someone in that 10.
Right. Can I ask you a question, Charlie, then? So if I could grant you 2 wishes of 2 players now, who are you taking?
Paqueta and Savinho. They're my realistic ones. Wishes, Lamine Yamal and...
We'll stick with the realistic one. So why just tell me why Paqueta?
Well, because I don't want Nico Paz. He's not proven in the Premier League. I'm fed up of us signing players who are from France, Italy. They don't have the intensity of the Premier League. And, I'm no one to speak. I don't play professional football. But at the end of the day, if we've seen it all before, and Dombele, Lo Celso come to the Premier League, haven't quite fit, I don't want us to go and sign Nico Paz, Akliouche. You know, I know Akliouche is the perfect fit for the Thomas Frank system, but, you know, I'm sure someone who plays in League Two is the perfect fit, but they're not going to be at the quality that we need. Paz isn't going to be at the quality we need. Paqueta, we know what we're going to get. He is going to be at the quality we need. So I don't see why we don't go for him. And Savinho, just pay the money. You know, I'm not a billionaire. I don't have this type of money. This is why we protest week in, week out, to bring someone in who's got the money to sign the players we need. We can't keep doing this. Was it 8.5 million with Eze we didn't want to pay and we let Arsenal get him? It's stupid, and we need to make sure we're getting our targets. Savinho is a top player. You know, my granddad says to me, but they spent 25 million last year. I keep telling him, no, it's multi-club ownership. But going on to his time at Girona, he scored 9 goals in La Liga. That is good for someone, you know, at Girona, a club who did very well that year, but he was the star man for Girona. And I think we're getting our money's worth. We know what we're getting because he's been in the Premier League. Under Pep, it's very, very difficult. You've got the Pep roulette. So coming to Tottenham, where you're going to be a first teamer, I think that'll be the perfect signing for that left wing. Someone with lots of flair, what we need, who plays the Tottenham way.
Okay, fair.
Charlie, when people said about Thomas Frank playing more pragmatic, I think a lot of people thought that was going to be like a more of a boring style, but we haven't seen boring football under Thomas Frank so far. He has this really good way of playing, you know, defensive. He plays, you know, very attacking style as well. We have a really, really good mixture. And when you think back, and I'm not dissing Ange at all, when Ange used to say in press conferences, and it was said to me earlier this morning that, you know, when a team faced Spurs, that they thought it was an easy game because they knew exactly what Spurs were going to do. Under Thomas Frank, we've seen multiple different formations and flexibility in his tactics already. We are going to be a very difficult team to beat this season. I know Si and I were joking earlier about our first defeat being in March 2026. He's even come out and said we're going to lose games, but we're going to be a lot more harder to beat, aren't we, as a team?
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas Frank is when he first joined, I was very upset because, you know, we all loved Ange. And I think I was on the fan show the night Ange got sacked. And Chris, you said to me, we'll have you back on Wednesday when we appoint Thomas Frank. And we did, actually. I think I did come back on the Wednesday. So hopefully we can do something good. Because he grew on everyone. But from what I've seen in the 3 games, I'm not going to count the pre-season games, the Super Cup, Burnley and City, we played very well in all of those games. We need to keep pushing on, need to keep going. You know, it is pragmatic, but it is also good to watch. And at the end of the day, I want us to win trophies, not playing boring football. I don't want us to be like Arsenal, where we get a set piece. It's our only hope of scoring. I want us to make the nice moves to get the goals. But I think we also have to see the side where some games are going to have to play a back 5 to make sure that we can get the win. And for me, that's really, really important, because if we can change the way we play, we're adaptable. That's something I really didn't like about Ange. I love Ange. My friend's actually a Brentford fan. And when he joined, he said, Charlie, you're going to do fantastic next year. I said, no, we're not. We're going to miss Ange. Ange is the best. He won a trophy. How could we ever sack him? And he texted me on Saturday, you still think Ange is better than Frank? And I said, yeah, because Frank hasn't won a trophy. And, you know, I think Frank had every right to be better than Ange. I think he is a better coach than Ange, but we've got to see that success. For me, that is the dream. I want to be at another parade. I loved that parade, and I want to be there again at the end of the season with an FA Cup, Carabao Cup. not a Carabao Cup. We won't do a parade for a Carabao Cup. Anything. I want to see a parade again.
Charlie, before you go, tell everyone about your YouTube channel. What can they expect from it?
Well, I'm going to change it up actually next week. I'm off to Turkey, so I won't be at the Bournemouth game. I'll still come on the fan show, and I'll watch the Bournemouth game. I wanna make a new video out there. There's two things I really want to do. A video all about fake football shirts, because I think it's the most amazing new sort of thing that doesn't get talked about in the modern day of football. Fake football shirts. And I want to go to a Turkish football match. I just love the atmosphere there. So really excited for that. I match day vlogs every game I go to. So every home game in the Premier League. You won't see the Bournemouth one because I'm not there. And if we get to the quarterfinals of any European stage, you can expect me to be at that. And I'll probably go to one of the group games in the Champions League because I really, really want to see us play Real Madrid and Inter Milan. That's one of the things I love about PSG. I didn't have to,
Hold on. What? Why only the quarterfinals?
Well, I didn't.
You've got to support your club from the start.
Got to be all in.
Have we lost him?
Chris, it's going a bit funny. I'm going to say my goodbyes.
I think he's gone.
He's gone. Right, you'll see Charlie from the quarterfinals onwards in the Champions League. Yeah,
don't they call that glory hunting?
Perhaps it's just modern day football style. I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. Yeah. Right, we're now going to go to Steve. Steve, have you got your singing dog with you?
He's asleep.
Have you taught him new songs for the new players?
No.
Steve, how are you feeling after Saturday?
Oh, buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. Really, really, really good performance. Yeah, it's refreshing, isn't it, to see us actually be defensively sound, and like just the team as a whole, just all together, because we didn't see that last season. We saw players most of last season not knowing what their jobs were, what they were doing. So to see that on Saturday was what everybody knew what they were doing was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, really happy. Good start.
Could just generally, Steve, is anything that about Thomas Frank surprised you, or not been as you expected, or is he kind of behaving the way that you thought he would?
I mean, I didn't really watch a lot of the Brentford games, obviously, so I didn't really. I know he was a good manager and he did really well with Brentford, but yeah, just the way how quickly he's changed things. It's really surprising. Because I was like, normally it takes time, but yeah, I'm just really surprised at how quickly the players are adjusting to his system. Especially against, I know we do generally well against Man City, but just that was a completely different performance yesterday from what we normally see. So we didn't look like we were in trouble at any point, really. So yeah, no, to answer your question, though, no, I'm not surprised. People have said how good he is, and we're actually starting to see that now. So yeah, it's good.
No, fair play.
Can I just say, while we've been recording this fan show, Fabrizio Romano has just stated exclusive Tottenham bid worth €70 million package for Nico Paz has been turned down this evening. Paz wants to stay at Como with view on Real Madrid's future, and Real Madrid were going to match any proposal in any case. Real have a €10 million buyback clause in 2026, but will compensate Como in the future. So it doesn't look like this one is going to get done. Steve, on transfers, what's going to make... I know I've asked this question a lot over the last couple of weeks, particularly tonight. What are you going to be happy with? If the transfer window closed and we didn't get any more business done, would you be unhappy?
I would be unhappy, but I think we'll have to get on with it, wouldn't we? Like you said, though, the thing is, what's going to happen when we get injuries? I personally think that we won't have as many injuries as we've had the last couple of years because we're not playing the gung-ho football that Ange had us playing. So I'm hoping that's kind of is half the battle. So yeah, I mean, if the window's shut tomorrow and we didn't bring anybody in, we're just gonna have to deal with it, aren't we? I would hope that they would be starting to work on the January transfer window. I'd like to think that they're kind of got a plan in place for that already, as well as this transfer window. So I was going to chuck a name out there. I don't know if it's controversial or not. Would you take back Christian Eriksen?
It would be a no for me, but I felt pretty let down by him when he went, and also given his age and profile, it's not somebody that I would want. If you're going to just go with somebody as a temporary solution, then for me it is. I said, right near the start of the show, go and get an Asensio or somebody like that, but not a Christian Eriksen for me. I'm afraid left a bad taste in the mouth, and also I just don't think he's what we need in that position. I'd rather invest in, Berryvale and Papsar playing in that position rather than him. But that's just my opinion.
Nicholas in the comments here says he's finished. No, I don't think I would either, Steve, actually. I think it's all about improving the squad and getting players in that are going to walk straight in the starting 11. And I can't see Christian Eriksen doing that. Great player for us, obviously, when he was there. But I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't always work when people go back. I know the journalist and broadcaster Danny Kelly on TalkSport the other day said, bring back Dele Alli. I feel like we can all be very sentimental about players, and we all love Dele Alli. A lot of us loved Christian Eriksen at the time when he was a Spurs player. Brilliant player at his time. But yeah, sometimes it just don't work coming back, and you can't be sentimental in football. No. You need to move on, and you need to improve that squad. Steve, is there anyone in particular who I'm realistic, who you'd like to see in a Spurs shirt that perhaps hasn't been mentioned or we haven't been linked with, but you could see it as a realistic option? Anyone that you can think of?
No. Like I say, we've been linked, or I think we've probably been linked with half the Birmingham players in world football, haven't we, this year? True or not. So, no, I can't really think of anybody that would want to, I can think of. No, but with the Sabinho situation, I know Man City are reluctant to sell, but would you go to Man City and say, all right, you don't want to sell him because you see he's got a future with you, but as he's probably not going to get a lot of game time, get him on a season-long loan?
I don't think that is necessarily true, that he's not going to get a lot of game time. He got a lot of game time last season. He played a lot of matches. I feel like that is just a media narrative or a journalist narrative that, he would probably, in truth, he'd probably get more game time at Spurs, but I don't think he's going to be, out of matches and not getting any game time. Would you agree with that, Si? Because he is a quality player.
Oh,
of course,
absolutely.
City are going to play him. Yeah.
If he stays at City, he will get, again, it's a bit like Spurs, isn't it? If you're going to get Man City are going to play 50, 55 games a season, he's going to play half of them, isn't he, at least? I do think he would get probably, 5 to 10 games more at Spurs, because he's going to be the bigger fish in the smaller pond, isn't he, if he comes to Spurs than he is at City. But I still think he'd get significant game time at City because, just like every team, you've got to have, you mentioned it earlier, Chris, if you really want to be effective, you've got to have 2 11s, you know. And if you look at that, I think that, regardless of how we did against City at the weekend, just forget that. You're going to have your Cities, your Arsenals, your Liverpools and Chelsea. I think they're going to be the ones that are battling it out at the top of the table. And all of those teams have got Champions League commitments just like we have. So you've got to have the depth in your squad, and you know, come swinging it back round again. That's where Spurs are failing at the moment. We do our first 11 is decent, as it were.
Yeah.
But when you come away from that, is it as strong as a rotated Arsenal side, a rotated Chelsea side, a rotated Man City side, etc.? You can't argue that it is, because it just isn't, is it? If you look at the depth of players those other teams that I mentioned have got. So, yeah, I don't think we can say that we're at that level. So, no.
Si, with the conversations that a lot of us have, and we get lots of people from, you know, as you've seen this evening and heard, you know, people from all over the world come on here, and a lot of people say a very, very similar thing, and it's a very similar theme about us having the injuries in the last couple of seasons under Ange Postecoglou. We can't fight on all fronts because of injuries, and you know, the amount of games you've already mentioned, the amount of games, minimum games that we're going to have. The conversations we have, surely the club themselves at board level, and the manager and the coaches and the scouting staff, and you know, everyone connected to the football club, surely they have these same conversations, and they sit down and say, well, actually, we need to improve on last season because X, Y, and Z happened. You know, when these injuries happen, and they will, because we're playing all these games.
Yeah.
Surely they have the same conversations as what we have, and they then, you would think, plan for that eventuality.
Categorically, of course they do. But, you know, if you look at it from their perspective as well, and I think this point has been made tonight, they look at certain players that can improve and could be improved with coaching as well. They're taking in, you know, a bigger picture and perhaps the personality side that we don't get to see, or how these players can improve. But yes, they do it. However, it comes back to the same point, doesn't it? If we talked about backing a manager, for me, if Thomas Frank goes to the Azerbaijani third division and picks up a player that does what he wants to do, am I going to cry because we spent, you know, 5 million euros on getting that bloke when he could have got somebody else? No, I'm not, because that player has been identified and put into that position. So that's where it comes down to, you know, the scouting network and the players that we get. All comes back to that same point. It has to be what the manager wants. Forget about the money. Forget about the other sides of it. If Savinho is the bloke that is the key to unlocking the door of our left-hand side, then if you know, I'll go back to my previous points, if it's 10 million euros make the difference, then for goodness sake, sort out the 10 million euros. And if you were going to spend, you know, we've seen in the comments here, we were prepared to spend 70 million euros on Paz. We'll take 10 million euros of that and get the deal done for Savinho. And then you've got 60 million left rather than 70 to deal with your number 10 position. Surely it's not that difficult, is it? Or am I oversimplifying it again?
No. Steve, let me ask you about Champions League, because it's 3 years since we've played a Champions League game, or 3 years since we've started a Champions League campaign. How excited are you by having Champions League back? Because those Champions League nights, particularly at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, are special.
Yeah, very excited. I mean, obviously, I know we ain't got the same season since 2019, but well, we haven't got the same team that we had in 2019. But that was a special run. That was. So I'd like us to experience that more. But like you say, we need the players. We need the squad depth. Otherwise, we're not going to get very far, are we? So, because I know, like Europa League, yeah, great, absolutely fantastic. We won that, but like you say, Champions League, different level. And like you say, the teams that we could be playing in from pot one, what was it? Bayern Munich, Real Madrid,
Barcelona.
PSG. Yeah.
PSG, yeah, Inter, Dortmund.
I'm going to ask you a question, Steve. So you can have one of those. You can have one of those teams at home. Who would you like?
It's got to be Barcelona, isn't it? Surely.
That's your choice, my man.
Yeah, Barcelona. I think that would be good. That would be good. But we'll
no easy games.
Yeah, we'll probably get smashed. But
what is it? Because you think it's the easiest one?
no, I don't think it's the easiest one. I'm not worried about PSG because I think we can get a draw out of them. We proved that already. We've beaten Real Madrid before, so that's fine. We've beaten
I'd quite like to see Barcelona, and I have to say, I don't know, you probably were there, Chris, but the night that we played Barcelona at Wembley, I saw a footballing masterclass that I was privileged to be there, even though we were on the wrong end of it. Lionel Messi that night was absolutely unbelievable. Yeah. And I do mean unbelievable. I don't like defeats, but I've never been so happy after a defeat as that night against Barcelona, because I'd seen something that I'd never seen before. It was absolutely an exceptional performance. It was brilliant.
Yeah, they were good nights actually. Yes, we had a couple of good nights at Wembley, Champions League. Steve, last question. What are you expecting for Saturday, the Bournemouth game?
Another win. Another win. I'll go for 3-0 because I think we're going to the international break 9 out of 9. But I am looking forward to the Champions League draw on Thursday, so that'd be interesting to see. So like I say, great start to the season. Not going to get carried away, but optimistic.
Well, Steve, thanks so much as always for joining us, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Cheers, Steve.
Guys. Thanks a lot now. See you later.
Cheers.
Bless you.
Right, Steve was our last guest. So, Si, just over a 3-hour fan show. Have you enjoyed it?
I always love it, mate. You know that I can talk Spurs with anybody we could talk till dawn, as they say. I'd still be quite happy chatting around it. Now, I've got a question for you. It was the same question I've posted to other people tonight. I can grant you 2 players to come to Spurs by the end of the transfer window. Who are you taking?
Who am I taking? Savinho and Morgan Gibbs-White.
Okay.
You did ask. Do you know
one
what?
One doable.
One's doable, and one is definitely not doable. We know that. That number 10, that number 10 position, Sire. I tell you what. I know I've asked this question to everyone all night, but I would feel really disappointed if we do not bring in a number 10 in this transfer window, because if you'd have said to me at the start, at the end of the window, we won't have a number 10, I wouldn't have believed you. Because having won the Europa League, I would have hoped and I would have thought that we'd have really kicked on and this would have been a really, really big window. Don't get me wrong. I've bigged up Polinia and Mohamed Kudus all show. And, ever since the two of them have come in and ever since I've seen them both perform. And interestingly as well, Thomas Frank come out and said that Polinia is, not fit yet. So we're going to see a better version of him. And I'm really excited about that. And Mohamed Kudus, who I've been raving about, for some time now, he's an absolute talented player, really, really good. So, that number 10 role is really, really important. I don't want to just have a makeshift player in there or a versatile player. We need a number 10 who is going to be in that position. So that would be disappointing. The left wing as well. When you let a player like Son go, I would have hoped that there would have been a plan as well in place to bring in a replacement. It's interesting as well, isn't it, that Thomas Frank comes out and says it a number of times that the club are working extremely hard, and he's name-checked Vinay and Johan Langer and Daniel Levy, saying that they're working day and night. And I know a lot of us are feeling very frustrated, saying we'll work a little bit harder then because we need these players. Is there anything else, Si, that we haven't discussed tonight, or is there anything else that you want to say?
No, but the only thing I think is that we still, we've talked about it tonight already. We have to address this homegrown issue, and we need one more homegrown player. So, the question for me is, who's that going to be? Because I can't think of many candidates that are obtainable that are going to meet that. Or are we saying we're not going to address that in this window, go with the 7 and lose a squad place for the overseas players? So I'm fascinated to see how that pans out, because I'm not sure I have a solution, but that's the only other thing really, mate, to be honest. But other than that, I think we've discussed everything that I kind of had in my head anyway. So yeah, it's good.
Let me ask you one quickly. Vluskovic, going out on loan to Hamburg, it looks highly likely that's going to happen. Is that the best choice and the best decision for his development, or would you like to actually see him stay at Spurs and get minutes, perhaps in cup competitions, and perhaps the odd 10 minutes here and there in the Premier League?
No, for me, I wanted him to go out on loan. What if you look at what we've done with him? He went from Croatian football to Polish football to Belgian football. If he's going to the Bundesliga, that'll be a good education for him. Come back to Spurs, another year older, another year wiser, and I think that will do more for his development than being a bit player around Spurs. I also believe that, I've gone on about it. Go and get an Nkapia, and then for me as well, Kota Takai, put him out on loan because he doesn't know European football. He doesn't know the pace. Let's give him a season to find his feet in Europe and around, how the game's played here, and then I think we can only benefit from that. Let's say don't rush Vluskovic, don't rush the youngsters. I think for me, Vluskovic is the same situation as Mikey Moore. Going to Rangers, being in the Goldfish Bowl there will do him good. And ultimately, 2 or 3 years down the line with both of them, Spurs fans will be the beneficiary of that education that they get playing week in, week out, serious men's football, and just move the standard that they're playing up. So yeah, I'm quite happy for him to go out on loan there.
Let me ask you a non-Spurs question here. There's been a lot of speculation at the moment about Nuno Espirito Santo possibly leaving Nottingham Forest. He was asked on Sunday about his future, and he said, "No, I'm here. There's no problem. I want to be the manager at Nottingham Forest." But there's also been a lot of rumours about Marinakis possibly appointing Ange Postecoglou. How would you feel about seeing Ange back in the Premier League, and what sort of reception, if it did happen at any Premier League club and he ended up at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season, what would the reception be like for him, do you think?
I hope he would get the adulation he deserves for bringing us our first trophy for 17 years, our first European trophy for 40 years. So it was a bit like, Kyle Walker coming back. So I heard some people boo him, and then I was actually in the South Stand for that game, and then everybody was cheering when he came to take a throw. We should celebrate these guys. And look, Ange gave us a night that none of us will ever forget. So surely we should appreciate that. And it doesn't matter whether it's Marinakis and Forest and all those shenanigans. And, it was people talking about hating Eze, and I just roll my eyes and think, look, he's an Arsenal lad. He didn't want to come here, and if we want to make him play better when Arsenal play us, we'll go on, boo him, harangue him, because you'll just inspire him to do better. The best thing we can do is just ignore him for the insignificance that he is. But no, for me, even when Nuno came back, or it doesn't matter who it is comes back, just show them the respect that they represented our club, and particularly in Ange's side, gave us the most fantastic night with Bilbao. And do you know what, Chris? All the way through that, we met a load of time before the game, and before the games in the knockout stages and the quarterfinals. We make great friendships out of this, so we should just celebrate it for what it was. It was a brilliant time, a brilliant run. We all enjoyed it. So just treat him with the respect that he is only one of 3 Spurs managers who have delivered us a European trophy. It's as simple as that for me.
Indeed. That's why I'd never have a bad word said about Ange actually on here, because deep respect for him delivering that European success. And like you say, Si, it was an incredible night in Bilbao. It was an incredible day a couple of days later outside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Amazing memories that we've created. And like you said, he's rubbed shoulders now with Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw, one of 3 managers to deliver a European trophy. So, and good luck to him. and whatever
Absolutely.
he does next.
Yeah, I was always of the opinion, when Pochettino went, it doesn't matter whether he went to Chelsea or wherever he went. That bloke doesn't owe us anything. He didn't owe us anything, and it doesn't matter. We could have appointed him. We chose not to. So if he wants to go and get himself a job wherever he wants to get himself a job, that's his call. If Daniel Levy would have wanted him, he could have gone and got him, couldn't he? But we didn't. So I can't hate people that, again, take the Pochettino team. We saw some brilliant football. We saw some exciting times. So don't hate the bloke. It's just a bit daft.
So, very last question. Give me a score prediction for the Bournemouth game Saturday.
Oh, I think it's going to be 3-1. I think our back line is going to be breached. And the only reason I'm saying the one is, if anybody tells me that a Spurs team is going to go 3 games without letting a goal in, I find it difficult. History tells me that probably won't happen. What about you? Where are you on this one?
2-1. I think we are going to win. I am confident going into this game, and like we've said throughout the whole fan show, I'm very impressed with Thomas Frank. Can't wait to see more. Very excited to see more. Very excited to see more of Mohamed Kudus, and it should be exciting. But obviously, I say this lastly, that we want to see some transfers in the next 8 days, and then we'll be buzzing. So give us a chance, give the manager a chance, and help the manager out exactly what he needs. Si, thank you so much for giving up over 3 hours of your time this evening to talk to many fans across the world and to talk to me. So thank you so much. Where can people find you, and what are you up to? Anything interesting at the moment?
Well, you can find, we've just, personally wise, we've just bought another business, so I'm busy with that. You can find me hanging around, blathering, shooting my mouth off on X at the gloriously at CC 2020 Co. Ridiculous title, or just put inside the Fox, you might find me. And also,
do you know what, Si? When you get off here, try and work on that handle to make it really easy for people.
I know, but I was trying to, I was trying to change it. It was like, oh no, anyway. And also, if anybody's around and you see me at the stadium this coming weekend, come and say hello and have a chat and let's talk all things Tottenham again, mate. So and also thanks for having me. And also for anybody else listening, Chris doesn't ask for likes and thanks, but support him with the awards, support him with your support. Share this to fellow Spurs fans, and we can make the family bigger, larger, and happier. So and big thanks to you, Chris, for always having me. I appreciate it, but loved it.
Thank you, Si. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everyone who's come on today. And I know that there were a lot of people in the green room that were in there, and then they've had to drop out because they were waiting for us to finish with other guests. So apologies for not coming to you. And I know there were a lot of people trying to get in when the green room was full. So apologies for that. These shows can be very, very popular. But if you would like to appear on a future one, please do send me an email. It's tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. People like Si and myself love talking all things Tottenham. We could be here all night. I know Gary and I once did a nearly 6-hour fan show once, and we love it. We love it. We can't get enough of it. So, but hopefully we will be talking a lot in the next 8 days about new transfers. Of course, the Champions League draw takes place on Thursday. Really looking forward to that. And of course, we are next in action on Saturday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Bournemouth. So we will see you a lot this week on various different shows. Stay safe and well, and remember that all of these episodes are also available on audio platforms. And thank you so much for all of your support. So until the next one, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.